in mind 2017-18 period itself. So you can see that arable land is getting reduced and the crop production is also proportionately getting reduced. So earlier, no, please stay on this slide. See, this is a reflection of where we were in the past and where we are in the future. With rising population and reducing arable land in the state, it faces threat from insufficiency and over-dependence. So this is a fact that we experience right now. And I don't need to explain that we had wonderful pictures like this when we were in our childhood days. We used to enjoy that, but now all what available is seen here. So through the windows, you can see some top of the coconut trees, but where are the other cultivations gone? We need to, and what happened to it? Why people stop farming? So all these issues are there, and now we are deficient, and we have to depend on other states for all the things import. Next slide, please. Yeah, management of arable land cultivation effectively using improved methods and marketing using integrated networks and distribution hubs, etc. with proper planning has to be considered. Now, there are detailed sessions on each of this available in the total presentation where experts will speak. But I'm giving you an overall. See, for example, you can cultivate tomatoes on the soil as well as in a soilless mode. So, and now this is good for the age friendliness because people can take part, even the elders can take part in it. And in their apartment itself, they can go for that. The schematic diagram is shown here, so which you can all see. And from this schematic diagram, architects and planners could think of such opportunities available for us. Vertical farming and floriculture using aquaponic system, which aims to address the challenges of traditional agriculture, which is the production is much less, that in the traditional way, and there is degradation and there is water scarcity and the use of harmful chemicals along with the introduction of sensors and regulators to make the system automated for efficient resource utilization, which requires revision of agricultural policy that enforces adequacy in the availability of land, even by some way of leasing out in a democratic manner. You know that in our state, Israel is only 1/3 of Kerala state, but it is self-sufficient. How is it made self-sufficient? Every square inch is made available for their development purposes, agriculture, etc. Which I think I am sure that Professor Gaurav will be able to give you the details of it when he comes for his presentation. Next slide, please. Next slide. I think we can't see the slide. Hello, Irene.
I think Irene got signed out, so probably logging in back again.
Where is our
so Irene has some technical issues. Just a minute.
Okay, we will go from our end then. Can you all see it?
Please proceed.
Can you see that? Hello? Can you see the slides, all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with rising population and reducing arable land, that is the issue that we are saying about. Can you all please keep your cell phones shut? Then the revision of agricultural policy is the point that we stopped at. Now, Kerala, an administrative region with geographical features that form a linear territory. This is the form of the Kerala state, and we have got 3 times the land area of Israel with us. And why we will not be able to become self-sufficient? This is a critical need which needs to address the demand for cohesion in all stakeholders. We underline the word cohesion. Cohesion means it is basically the community resilience that we are going to establish, which other professors also will contribute to that. At individual and community levels, resilience matters much. As in times of flood, we have seen our community resilience. And if that is happening in the extreme situation, then we can very well organize it on normal times also. So look at the grouping. See, this is a situation in COVID situation, then how exactly we moved up. This is another community, and there is another community of marketing people here. See, this is all put together. There must be a cohesion, which we need to appreciate, and we need to develop that cohesion in our state so that we will be able to implement the plans which we conceive properly and implement it. Then development of a region through long-term collaboration of social partnership. Groups in initiatives may be tried in all scale and form to be considered to drive the future. So I am moving on to the next slide. Now look at the age friendliness. Age friendliness means addressing the needs of all people, all ages. It is inclusive is another term that is used for it. Government of India had a huge program about the future of cities, and regarding the future of cities, you know what happened is that we all in IIT Kharagpur took part in it, and we had lots of funding about it. And I conducted a particular study on our nearby state, which is Orissa, and also Calcutta, and then the railway stations and all these things, where you will find the results of that in this presentation. So it gone the age friendliness or the inclusivity, it is gone beyond behind the smart city mission when it was introduced, where ICT and IoT and similar stuff are practiced. The needs of the elderly people are neglected. See, in a position like this, if you are able to bring in the group and activity, this type of protest will not be there. Justice for all. We need just cities. The elderly people cannot be neglected. They are the people who built up our state. And now it is not good for the interest of the state to neglect the needs of the elderly. So consider the needs of the inclusivity of all ages, which is age-friendly, and take advantage of modern technologies to the formation of age-friendly just cities. So we have coined a new term, which is just city, which is giving justice to all. So this shows, it's a schematic picture, but it takes care of the needs of all people. So that is what we should envision. So that the social inclusivity is there, age friendliness is there, and it provides for all. Say, even to cross a path by an elderly person, how difficult it is to manage. Everything is now digitalized, but to manage the digitalization and its own tools and techniques, elderly finds it very, very difficult. So you will have to help them out so that we will be in a position to address their needs. Now look at this position of depression if you leave them alone. Okay, now we are going to the biocentric design. This is another part that we will be dealing in this seminar and discussion, and where the biocentric how life centers on the reality of nature. Biocentric planning offers a solution by integrating nature and biodiversity into urban development, fostering resilient communities in harmony with the ecosystem. So everywhere we focus on bringing in fostering resilience and community harmony, and we have to exist as an ecosystem. Flood management through the green infrastructure and buffer zones. Droughts are addressed through water conservation, rainwater harvesting, xeriscaping, green roofs and walls, and urban forests. Then biocentric planning is most effective when combined with sustainable practices and community engagement. This is the Greek philosophy, ancient Greek philosophy of planning. Then in that case, the worldview of today is this. You come to the atomistic viewpoint, and then here is the biocentric design. This is anthropogenic, and this type of worldview we will have to cultivate in the hearts of our people. And the government shall take the lead for it. I think institutions like GILA has the responsibility to think over and above what is being promoted by governments and help the government to understand the needs and diffusal of all this information to the people, so that they will be in a position to gather information and stand behind the government in implementing all these projects. Now, tailor-made strategies to each location and its conditions, and collaborating among architects, urban planners, designers, ecologists, hydrologists, people, and experts from every side ensures effective water-related solutions. So, for example, an architect can think of a solution like this, where he will give more time for percolation, water to come down and retained, and it slows down the flow. It comes to the soil, then gets absorbed, so that there will be water. It is called the percolation, and in our terms we call it percolation. It percolates and you will have availability. See, the olden days are shown here in both left and right. You find how interesting it was. It was more centered on the canals and the water bodies of Kerala, and this was a situation where you find lots of that is the paddy fields, and then you have some water, and then you think about it. So water sensitive future planning. This is another theory which I think Professor Dr. Ranjit will take care of it. And I am now focusing on the age-friendly built form design and infrastructure design. This was one of the research that we conducted, and the fruits of this we are sharing with you. See, contemporary demographic shift. You must understand that there is a population growth, but there is also a growth in the size of population among the elderly people, that too women and men we have to consider separately. So if this ceases to change, then we will have a responsibility to accommodate the changes with our planning. So you must understand one thing, that along with the needs of the other people, aged people also to be considered. Children are to be considered. And see, there are different categories of people affected by different illness. Lung infections, then heart attack and heart problems, and then you have got pregnancy. All these are equivalent to disability. So you have to consider that they are, once you consider for this age-friendly approach, we will be taking care of all people. Otherwise, they will also demand, we need a safe life. We need something which is compatible. Then urban development and architecture must be centered on the healthy family. That is the fact. But then it also should consider the elderly, children and the motorized traffic for them also. So research in India preferences and needs of various strata, gender and class of elderly is in very nascent state, and we need to consider our researchers, concentrate our researches on it and implement the results of it. See, now we know that 60 is, as per India standard, 60 is when you become say a senior citizen. The need for the retirement communities, the elderly facilities are on the rise. And we know that Kerala is now coming up with retirement homes. And most of us are away or abroad, like me, leaving the family and the home behind and then coming in the job location, and we are living here. We have no option, but the thing is that our parents also need to be taken care. Otherwise, look at the face of this old man. Everything, his poverty, his incapability, everything is depicted on that photograph. It's a storytelling photograph. Exponential growth in the number of elderly living or independently or in apartments, or maybe isolated in their own homes. Especially the elderly, violence against the elderly is happening, and we have got growing number in Kerala state also, which is also the same situation in India also, when it is taken on an average situation is like that. So the designs are to be focused on healthy family, which ignores the special needs of the elderly. It is, of course, you have to concentrate on the healthy family, but then that healthy family includes the elderly also. Specific concern over the residential built form and infrastructure design for the elderly is therefore of central importance. As an architect, I say this, as a planner, it must be the elderly oriented planning must be also thought of. Now look at the population pyramid. If the in percentage male, if it was in 1950, it was the situation. 2007, it was like this. Can you understand the supporting population and supported population? So the supported population is this much only in 2007. Now the supported population is this much. It has increased, and supporting population has reduced. That means the amount of help an elderly can get from others are also getting reduced. So it is our, the Senior Citizens Act is passed in the Parliament, and Equal Opportunity Act is also there. So which ensures all of us, all the citizens, equal rights among the nation and its privileges. Now, this is the situation of Kerala. It's a reducing arable land. The forest situation is also getting reduced. We have to stop it. We have to, otherwise we have to definitely face the perils of it. See, the Kerala population in 1901 was, it is 3 crores, it was almost, and now it is almost coming to 5 crores in 1931. And annual birth rate is decreasing in Kerala. In 2016, this is the rate. And look at this situation, the urban situation, the elderly is going up. And this is the total situation of population is also going up, but somehow it has stabilized. But the fact is, you look at this graph here, you find that there is from 2001 to 2011, you find that there is a steep rise, and it is going to be on almost, becoming rocket high. So we need to consider their needs. It is very, very, very important. Now, this is a part of a study that we have done in Orissa. Look at the state, percentage of elderly to the total population is this. If you just find out, it is always going up. The total is also going up. The elderly is also going up. Now, we will find that elderly female and male are given separately. Everywhere you will find that if it was 5.5, the total male, now it is 8.2 to the percentage of the total. Now, this is the elderly share of elderly population going up. By 2011, it has reached here. By 2023, the situation must be very, very, or by the 2030 or 2040, as the governments are planning, they will probably touch here. So you must understand the trend of this graph, and the percentage of elderly to total population. When we understand that they are actually facing a lot of problems, that India is going to be having a lot of aged people. Say China, the elderly is basically consisting of their population, and all the young people are by way of controlled birth and all those things, it is getting reduced. This is a situation in every country, every developed nation. US is another example. UK is another example. So where you will find, Germany is another example where you will find the same situation. See, the children are not, lot of problems addressing it, including social and antisocial also are responsible for it. Drugs, for example, in Kerala, it is on the high. And we have to take steps so that our young children will be protected, oriented well, and it is only in a coherent system that this will happen. If they have no role model, then they will also get lost in their own ways. Now, suggested solutions are develop appropriate elderly built forms and design and infrastructure model with the government intervention, reforms, acts, programs, awareness, and incentives. Compilation of standards and design heuristics. This is another area. See, do you want them to go like this? There in developed nations, you will find that there is special aid to lift the person up and then board the bus. But in our state, we will see this situation. See, somebody helping to get the wheelchair up. The slope is not sufficient for them. It is too much. And see, for example, how can a wheelchair bound person move on the street? This is another problem of our own state. Now, you will find that one way you can honor them. The other way, you have to manage them by giving them their appropriate facilities. See, look at this. this decadal growth in elderly population compared to that of general population. See, now you may think that the population is in general, it may be coming down the trend, but in the case of the elderly population, the graph is already going up. So we need to consider the elderly people and if they are placed in supportive, integrated, safe and enabling environment with appropriate infrastructure, there is every chance that the disabling effects will be and impairment will be reduced considerably and they will be happy. So smart, sustainable and inclusive growth strategy is what we want. And it is not just smart, but it should be inclusive, meeting the justice to all. The development shall give justice to all. This is a common question in the academia, that when you do some development, some portion of the people will be benefited. But what about others? So this is very important, and all age groups must be able to enjoy the fruits of our development. And age-friendly, inclusive residential communities is another movement that you can probably take up in improving security, safety, accessibility, mobility, self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and convenience for all age groups. Especially in the case of the elderly, they feel neglected when they cannot take part in the decision making. So this point one has to keep in their mind, and when we talk about coherence, they also should be given a part in decision making of the running of the things. Now you know that just for the sake of footpaths, Government of Kerala has come up with, this is a Cochin photograph. You have come up with this type of a railing which separates one side of roads from the other. See, it violates all the norms of the road design. There is no footpath properly maintained. And then if this type of barricades are raised, then how one will be able to survive and do the shopping? There should be a service road that is absent. Now we are talking about high speed and all those things are fine. But at the same time, we have an existing condition like this. See, here again, this is the Cochin situation that you find that in the construction time of the metro, and you will find that this type of developments we are promoting. And you know, one of the basic problems of the metro rail is that it disintegrates societies. It takes up the space and divide the road section into left and right or the sides, and this will lead to social disintegration, not social integration. This is one factor that we need to consider carefully, and we need to find out an appropriate solution for that. So of course, this is a Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation that we have studied, and we have used a number of clusters in it, and we have found out the age friendliness index. And then this concept is also similar to design for all, lifespan design, inclusive design, human-centered design, whatever it is. You will find that in the result, different communities that we studied, they have got varying, this is called a spider diagram, or you can call it a radar diagram. And see, varying communities, the performance, age friendliness, some are good, some are very bad. See, these two are probably much behind. Here you will find there is one community which is actually doing good. Now the model for that we have adopted is this, and we have developed a software for the assessment. Once you give your data regarding each of the community, we will be able to calculate the age friendliness index, and age friendliness index can be used as a tool for allocation of money, the finance that you give for every community. The findings of the research, though after decentralization of the policy system of the Indian local bodies such as municipalities and development authorities, non-profit organizations are empowered, most of the policies implemented for the execution of development work are not effective. Now, why is it not effective? Improper implementation, unfair practice, and lack of coordination among various departments. AFI is an important aspect to prioritize the age-friendly features and criteria of the execution of any developmental works or activity. Establish a special department or a wing itself for the coordination of the different developmental projects. Otherwise, what will happen? One week, the road will be done. Next week after that, the plumbing, the pipelines will be, sewage lines will be done. So finally, life becomes so difficult and people cannot use the things. Even normal healthy bodied people find it difficult to cross such roads. And whereas in this case, if coordination is there, well, whatever money we spend will be good for the state itself, and the people will be happy and healthy and from hazardous situation. So covered drainage, sewage systems, drainage, proper solid waste management are the first and foremost important aspects of a well-designed community, since these protects the environment from becoming hazard-free. So this open drain system must be abolished. Instead of that, we need to go for this covered drainage system. I myself have got experiences when I was serving in NIT Calicut. You would find one of our hostel managers just got dumped into this one of the open sewage lines, and then he was simply dead. So you will find that parks, open spaces, playgrounds should have been given importance while designing new community. You know, the importance of parks and open spaces and playgrounds, they integrate a society. So this should be understood. And well, see, increase in the adaptability, allowing an option or rearrangement of facilities, enabling the community. This is very important. So any community facility will serve this function, interaction between the people or among the people, and they will be in a position to better communicate. Roads and circulation spaces are very important. Then conversion of Kacha road to level Pakka road along with sufficient amount of solar powered street lighting. Lighting is very important, otherwise safety is in jeopardy. Now, seating arrangements, public washrooms, drinking water, all facility on the roadside, plantation, etc. should be located on regular intervals in consultation with experts. Now, you cannot tell somebody not to urinate on the road until otherwise they are not provided with public washrooms. So this has to be taken care. I know all of you will know the story of introduction of toilets in railways. Otherwise, such a similar situation will happen. Now, low-lying and waterlogging areas should be kept as vacant future plots, such as water body, ponds, and swimming pools where community participation can happen. Transport stops has to be located conveniently on either inside or nearby the community spaces. Modification of building bylaws such as incorporation of mixed land use, diverse housing type, and evenly or conveniently located age-friendly features. This is very important. Now, Professor Shreyas Pramod Barule will come in. I am ending my session here. Thank you very much, and I will come in towards the end. Please, Shreyas, please.
Yes, thank you, Professor Abraham. Thank you for the very interesting lecture. I think, do you want me to share the slides?
Yes.
Sure, okay. I'll do that. Just a second. I'll just share my screen.
If you find it difficult, we can operate from here. Shreyas.
No worries, no worries. I can do that. The thing is,
I'm sure.
yeah. Can you see it now? Is it visible?
Yes, visible. Go for the presentation mode. Yeah.
Now is it okay?
Yes, we can see that.
All right. So when we look at, thank you for the presentation, first of all, also to Killa and all the team members of the Urban Dialogue Initiative. I would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to interact with you and also give away some of the knowledge that we have collected so far regarding some niche topics which might be relevant in development in Kerala and other neighboring states altogether. So myself, I am Shreyas Barule. I am an assistant professor at IIT Kharagpur. And I'll be talking more about the integration of regional development. Now, being a very linear state, if we are talking in context of Kerala, we have cities where the cities would be in a very linear nature, right? So it will be connected like a linear garland, or a necklace with a lot of beads together, while beads being the cities, right? So if we take just one bead, or we take up one city and we start looking at the city, right? So the point where Professor Abraham concluded, it talked about a lot of infrastructure to be pumped into the city, wherein you have better streets, better infrastructure, better lighting network and things like that, right? So this comes from an interesting book called Developing Cities, Living Cities particularly. So how do we maintain cities? So the challenge which the book isolates particularly is the vicious cycle, right? So in most of the cities, if we see particularly in Asia, we have that Asian tradition or a system where things are not very linear. It's a non-linear dynamics of decision making. Also, we have a challenge where most of the planning and most of the infrastructure related activities are heavily influenced through political activities, right? Parallelly happening. So in the vicious cycle, if you see, the biggest challenge which we have, which is right on top, is the lack of governance, right? So with lack of governance, what happens is you get a lot of random policies which may not be relevant at that particular time to do certain kind of growth, which relates to and which diverges into insufficiency. So ultimately what it gives in a built environment is insufficiency. Now, when your built environment is really insufficient, you have or inefficient, right? So what it creates is economic stagnation, right? So in that particular part where you have economic stagnation, the worst thing which happens apart from social life, culture, and quality of life is it overall becomes a problem where you have misery for human development, right? And with miserable people coming into governance activities, you will again have governance which is not so good, or there will again be a perpetual lack of governance. So this is a loop which has been established, or which people have encountered researching different parts of the world, particularly cities which are larger than 5 lakh population. We see this over and over in right from the neighborhood level till the regional planning development level, right? So there's a possibility that we can make our cities living, where the first thing is where you improve governance, you can start predicting the kind of public policies which you can develop potentially, with keeping a laser focus on creating efficient economy. Once you do that, you get a increasing GDP, which increases and evolves over time, and that can be respected to give um, human development some heat and stepping stone on, right? So that's the loop which can be created. So based on this, I'll try to scale up and try to resolve this particular confusion and chaos which most of the cities presently have in India, which are trying to scale up from their local level or from their urban level, from their municipal level or municipality level to their regional scale, right? So what it creates is a linear diagram or a linear vision plan where a city wants to do things, a city has a lot of ambitions, a city wants to give its citizens happiness, improve their quality of life, and at the end of it, a city has phased goals, right? So all of this happens, which gets intertwined into each other, right? So in this particular challenge, how can we resolve this? So the biggest issue that we have is we have cities which are managed in a single urban center, right? But with transportation, we have different kinds of connections with different cities which we have, right? So for example, in case of Kerala, it is a very linear state, but at the same time, you have multiple different routes or multiple different transportation ways to connect the individual cities. There are water metros, which is very unique to our country, which is specifically there in Kerala, right? So things like this. So what we have been doing over time now, if you look at the first one, which is a single city, this is probably a city which we saw in the ancient times, right? But now we have much more connected cities. So what we have now is particularly category C. Everything that has happened in the past 100 or 150 years is of interconnecting all the cities or the major hubs which we have had, right? And number C, or the C diagram, which you see the metropolitan region, is what we are seeing these days, where multiple cities are growing larger and encompassing all the neighboring villages and all the neighboring hutments which are there to become a larger metropolitan region. within which larger infrastructure or high scale infrastructure like metro rails, like other kinds of services are provided, particularly logistics services and services similar to that, right? So what the ideal world is trying to focus on, or the ideal planned world is trying to focus on, is the mega region development, right? So how do you do a mega region development? So that is something which we'll try to discuss on, right? So what we have as of now, if you look at present situation, is we have two triangles, right? One is top down and other one is bottom up. So when you look at a top down issue, we ideally isolate one particular issue, which is a very broad topic. All right. So something like this particular topic where we say regional planning, right? So it's a very broad topic wherein a lot of different verticals come into picture. And then everyone tends to give one particular offering to the world that, okay, we can isolate this particular niche and try to work on top of it, right? So we do that. Once you're done with that, what happens on the other side of the issue is that you have a bottom-up kind of a situation where you start isolating the problems in a particular vertical to its context and to its discipline, right? Then what do? We tend to show our willingness to solve a particular problem or a particular issue in that given vertical, right? So what does it do? It actually is trying to self-fulfill or self-sufficient one particular idea which was initiated by one particular group, right? So does this solve the world problem? Probably not. So what can we do to make regional cities which are resilient, right? So if we just simply look at resilience, it's a component of three particular things. How does resilience get built? So one is the willingness of someone getting involved into something, right? He or she has a drive to do that. In case of a city, the city government or the urban local body should have a willingness to actually eradicate some particular issue which the city has been facing for a long time. What does it demand for? Immediately after that, after they have the willingness, is the capacity. Are they really capable to do that? Right? So if they are really capable to do that, they should have the zeal and ability to take that challenge up and then develop newer ideas with certain amount of skill to create resilience. And this is a perpetual cycle which keeps on going, right? So if we take an example of a port, it's quite linked to each other, right? So this is an image of how a port is actually isolated, and then similar developments are done alongside the port. Right. So where do we have, for example, if we take up a port in, say, Mumbai, we'll have a port on a location where there is an interface of water and land. You have a site situation, which is how much you can scale the port, whether you want to go inside the water or whether you want to stay on the land and then expand parallelly towards the water body or away from the water body, right? So you have a foreland interland problem, which determines the capacity and the efficiency of the port, right? Along with this comes in governance, with which we started this particular discussion, and the ultimate function that a particular port can have, the cargo handling, the kind of specialization which is there, the kind of different products which the port can handle. So all of this creates a particular idea that the whole domain starts depending on this particular port, or the whole region starts depending on this particular port to do further developments, right? So the port needs to be resilient, or the city needs to be resilient, is where the main system comes down to, right? So what do we have? The other side of this particular physical involvement of development has a lot of intangible things. So whenever we want to do development, particularly in case of regional scales, we need to have the willingness to sustain through the process, right? There needs to be ample amount of patience to see that the project gets through, and perpetually, or do it in phase manner where the feedback from the previous cycle is enforcing the development of the next cycle. That is extremely important, right? The next one is the ability to push ourselves and ask why. Why exactly have we stopped a particular thing in the process, and then we are trying to improve it based on the feedback that we have received from the initial steps of the project, right? Then we have the third thing is the capacity to bear the losses. It shouldn't be such that there are losses in a particular project, so we just crop that off. There should be certain ways which everyone needs to develop when they are developing a project to walk on the unknown path, right? And then these unknown paths by themselves give you unique solutions because they are very local, very native, and very much unique in their own matters, because any cherry cropped problem solution is not being able to get fixed there, right? So what do we have in case of every single region? What do we have? We have an identity of that region, right? Every region has an identity, and the people who are living there needs to have certain kind of belongingness to a particular identity, right? So what does it create? So it creates social institutions, it creates the society which we have, and it creates organizations. We have several different organizations which are working on different initiatives. If we take up this idea, simple idea of the Kila thing, which all of us are involved in right now, we are looking at urban dialogues. We are working on the belongingness where all of us belong to a community which is trying to solve urban problems and create an identity for the cities which we have in India particularly, right? So what do we have? We have a collaborative me and we solution. So if we try to move or split up these two particular triangles where we had a top down and a bottom up solution, what do we see? We see networking and societies and agencies similar to Kila and our work, which we are doing together, to come together with a concentrated power of will to solve problems in collaboration, right? So these are creative development practices which we can develop over time and try to create initiatives where people participate by trying and understanding the issues and challenges which are being faced by different people in different parts, right? So that's the whole idea. So we tried to do this in a particular book which recently got published. And what we have from there is three components. One is, if you want to develop resilient cities, we really need to focus on the quality of life of the city dwellers or people who are living in the cities, right? We need to have certain amount of social capital to provide infrastructure to that city and provide support for the traditions and cultures which are there, which can get developed over time. The environment aspects are equally important. My colleague, Professor Renji Rameshan, will highlight more on this, so I won't get into all the details of it. But environment is extremely important. And parallel to that is economics. So all of this comes together, right, with the governance. So the governance is the key cyclic, the key cyclic order maker where you keep everything together, right? And for all of that, we require infrastructure development. So the infrastructure development is an imperative which we cannot bypass. So in most of our cities where we are seeing metros getting developed, where we are seeing smart city projects being implemented, where we are seeing different kinds of development coming up, different kinds of slum rehabilitation issues coming up. So all of this is creating infrastructure only to make a better resilient future, right? Similarly, we try to do another project, another book, which comes from which comes this particular idea of a public transport node. Now, in a public transport node, you have supporting components, which are not really the public transport. So you have actors, you have advertisers, you have people who are putting in the physical environment, lightings and things like that, right? But along with that, you have physical things which are there. The bus stop is there, the lighting is there, the display of the buses is there, the bus route is there. So all of these things are there, which are at a human-centric scale, right? Along with that, the information which is given out there is also collecting some kind of monetary advantage from there. All right, so if you have a feedback QR code that scan this to get a new insurance policy, or scan this to get a document for a new kind of banking system, which is available there, gives you monetary advantages also. So this comes from the advertisement side, right? So it dwells down ultimately to human-centric levels. Now, if we are talking about human-centric levels, how can we improve the quality of life of humans, right? So it relates to all of these things where the supporting activities are actually looking at the belongingness the engagement and the health of the people. The physical environment is looking at the well-being and the quality of the environment. The information is actually good governance will give good information. Good governance will give good education. Good information will create good communication, which can be further processed and further communicated, right? And all of this, what it does is it creates personal safety and economy, right? It creates a better economic situation for all of us together. So these nodes or these regional activities which we have become really important in terms of communicating different ideas to ultimately create economic, environment, and social sustainability. Right. So what we generally tend to do is we have several partnerships, several teams which come together, several groups that come together, and we communicate with societies, and we create communities, and they together work for a cause. Instead, if we try to attempt, right, something like there is a cause, we go to the local context, we look at global collaboration, and then try to focus on sustainability, livability, inclusiveness, and security, right? If that is the path, if we are able to take it up, what it does is we can develop social collaborations and we can work for a simple cause which attaches meaning to the society in the future, right? And transitive, if we go back from the future, if we start reverse planning all the situation which we have, we can create good creative futures by creating initiatives right now towards certain causes which are there, where we attach meaning, create collaborations, and make more social groups. Thank you so much. Over to you. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
And we are uploading ours.
Yeah.
This come down. To see how this goes. That is yes. How is our view? Can you see? Just check whether everyone can see here. Hey, the video is on. Should be on. Is it? Shreyas, can you hear me? Aaron?
Yes, yes. It's clear.
Slides are visible, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Please
sir.
go to the presentation mode.
It's in presentation mode now. Is it?
We can't see the presentation. It's still PowerPoint.
We'll have to share the. I'm sharing. I'm sharing. Screen. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Now it's okay.
Okay. Right. So I'm Dr. Renji Rameshan. I'm from School of Water Resources, IIT Kharagpur. Today I am going to talk about this topic, climate and water-centered urban planning. So first I thought I will just give a brief introduction about what is actually what I am trying to explain here by this term, climate and water-sensitive planning means rather than considering city planning and water planning differently, we need to have some kind of integration which can give maximum benefit to the people. And at the same time, we need to consider the future uncertainties connected to climate change also. So our idea, what we are going to achieve through this is the water security in the region so that available water in that particular city, like in form of rainwater, groundwater, surface water, and even wastewater, reuse of wastewater can be achieved. And we can also avoid different kind of disasters like flood, water-related disasters like flood, droughts, etc. That's the idea we can achieve through this kind of water-sensitive planning if you plan city planning together with the clutter planning. And it is very easy to say this because, but implementation is very difficult. We need to have quite a lot of information about the spatial integration of a lot of data is needed.
and we need cooperation of people over there. Citizen engagement is very important aspect of that. And another aspect is there are like teams, groups with conflicting interests. For example, just think about a river basin. There are like group of agriculture farmers would have different interests, and if it is a tourist spot, tourism related people are having different interests. So conflict management is another thing, and there are like depending upon the cities, places where you are planning this kind of water sensitivity planning, there are other uncertainties too. So if you look into this philosophy of water sensitivity planning in general, there are like different aspects we need to consider. It is not only about planning roads or the drainage network or sewer networks. We need to have a proper planning of land use management, and we need to think about how we are designing stormwater. Different aspects are there. And this kind of disclosures are sufficient, good to get more information about what are the aspects we need to consider. If you look into this figure, you can see that considering different countries and India, different countries like Israel, Japan, always Israel is like in this direction. They are started doing all kind of city planning, giving more emphasis to water sensitive planning, giving rather than separately considering these two as different entity, they plan together. So that plan. So in India, recently we started talking more about water sensitive planning. So this is a larger area. I don't want to talk everything together. So I thought I will pick one particular area and talk about it. That is nothing but urban flood. So I thought I will talk about urban flood. Look at this figure. Three figures are there. I have taken these figures from emergency events database, EMDAT. You can also access this data. You can see from 1960 to now, if you look into all countries around the world, the number of flood events are increasing, especially urban floods. It's not, it's increasing quite a lot. And it's not the problem of Kerala, it's not problem of India alone. You can see there are countries from middle income countries, richer countries, they're all having this problem. And if you look into this similar plot, second figure, you can see that the number of people are getting died or fatality is also increasing. And the exposed population and exposed area over the year also actually increasing. This is a model output. So it is a global problem. I'm talking about urban flood in general. And we need to, the third figure is actually talking about the economic losses. If you look into the values corresponding to economic losses also, the exposed area and assets are actually increasing, mainly because we have land pressure. People try to go to do development in the river basin, flood prone areas, etc. So these three figures are actually indicating that if you look into this data, at least 1.5% increase in the annual values, number of people are getting affected or fatality cases are increasing. If you look into the economic losses, every year 6.3% per year actually that value is actually increasing. And we can see that we have land pressure, we have limited land. In the same time, we need to develop socio-economic development and population growth also. Another issue, it is pushing people to flood prone areas, and people are getting affected because of flood and other issues. And IPCC, climate related studies are showing that by 2050s, 52% of Indian population would move to urban areas. So you can understand that flood related issues going to be more and more people are going to get affected. So we need to tackle this and look at the last 65 years of data of India. We can see that economic losses, we lost almost 4.69 trillion Indian rupees only because of flood related, urban flood related issues like it's not direct, indirect cost together losses, crop loss, housing and other property losses. So these all actually showing the situation, putting us in a situation that we need to manage floods, urban flood effectively. So to look into urban flood management or stormwater management in urban area, these three figures would tell you what exactly happens when a natural landscape is converted into urban landscape. Everyone know this. I will explain. This is actually a figure which is talking about a natural water cycle. If there is a natural landscape, enough vegetation, and this is the case, same landscape. Actually, we fill the land, the soil with our built environment or like buildings and concrete, roads, pavement. What exactly happened? Naturally, if there is vegetation is there, evapotranspiration, whatever the rainfall falling there, a large portion of that will go like evaporation. A large portion will go through soil, like through infiltration, and deeper groundwater recharge is there. The moment we are changing this vegetation with the concrete and built thing, what happens? The runoff will increase because we are covering the soil with the concrete and all. Because of that, the infiltration goes down. Deeper groundwater recharge also goes down, but in the same time, runoff will increase. And this is the reason actually you can see in urban area, most of the time, even a small flood is actually, a small rainfall is actually making larger flood, because very quickly water will come to your already designed sewage network, and the network will be insufficient to handle that much quantity of huge runoff volume. That is the problem. But at the same time, we cannot keep the whole land as untouched. We need development, but we need to have somewhere in middle so that we can effectively managing our existing wetlands, and effectively we can reduce this flow. We can hold water for some time, and we can reduce the pressure all our sewage network or our stormwater structures are facing. So that is what I am going to talk about. So in general, we need to improve some kind of interventions, which is improving infiltration, groundwater flow, and incorporating available wetland or natural system over there. So that's what actually I'm going to talk about. Some examples I'm going to explain where we can see that modern interventions, engineering interventions and technologies can be used for managing flood volume. So I hope this is clear. If this is clear, you can see very recently people are talking about a philosophy which is called LID, which is low impact development. It is nothing but it is traditional knowledge only. It is nothing new in there, but we design certain things which is having some deeper technological interventions. So if you look into the definition of this, LID is nothing but we are developing some kind of systems and practices which mimic the natural process. I mentioned earlier, we need to have more infiltration, more evapotranspiration rather than the runoff. If you reduce the runoff, so we need to have some kind of existing wetlands and existing natural system. We need to use such a way that we enhance this mimic the natural processes, so that the water coming out of that catchment would be of better quality, and the catchment over there would be having better aquatic habitat. So nowadays, because of climate change, people are talking about green infrastructure. You can see that green infrastructure is in different kind of green infrastructure you can find. In stormwater management or urban flood management also, we can effectively use existing natural ecosystems, for example, existing forest or floodplains, etc., manage properly, and we can actually reduce the flood volume and flood peak, how quickly the water is coming to our existing drainage networks can be done. So look at this, whatever I explained earlier, you can see this, look at a two catchment. This is a comparison of two catchment. A catchment which is having natural vegetation, and a catchment which is actually same vegetation is removed and we have a urban area there. So if depending upon if same quantity of rainfall fall in both the places, how the evapotranspiration, runoff, deeper infiltration, the groundwater flow, etc., I have shown here in numerical terms. Here you can see that in a natural system, most of the water, lot quantity of water will go like evapotranspiration. The moment we are removing these plants, what happens? That evapotranspiration goes down, and that portion will go like runoff. This is actually we are experiencing like flood. Similarly, you can see with the moment we are covering this soil with this kind of concrete and other things, what happens? Deeper infiltration goes down, and this whole volume, exactly same quantity of rainfall we are getting. This is going like runoff. This extra 35%, 40% water is actually making urban flood. If we can manage some kind of technologies like LID approaches, we can actually make interventions such that we can reduce. So the philosophy, if you look into this philosophy, it's a traditional knowledge. We need to have more recharge. That is the thing. So how we can actually incorporate in our engineering terms, there are two approaches you would find. One is storage based LID and another one is storage plus infiltration based approaches. I will show you some examples other countries are actually widely using in connection with this. Look at this figure. You can see this is actually a roof area. It's in an urban area. You can see we designed this roof such a way that it is having a full waterproofing done, and the design also considers such that there will be temporarily we allow water to store there. So to a certain depth, water will be stored there. Only when it is exceeding that depth, it will be going to the drainage network. That kind of setups actually you can find in LID approach. We call it as blue roof because water is filling there. We call it as blue roof kind of designs are there. passive, active, many classifications are there. Similarly, look at this figure. You can see this is a green roof example here. Again, you can see allowing water. The design should be sufficient enough to handle this extra weight. Otherwise, this building will be having issues. We allow water to hold there. In the same time, some selected type of vegetation will be growing there. It will help you to water to hold for some time and release it. Then the flood peak can be reduced. In the same time, it helps to what you can say, the ambient temperature will go down, and it will help in the climate-related carbon sequestration too. Look at this. This is nowadays every countries are actually promoting groundwater rainwater harvesting. So we can use barrels and cistern kind of structures for storing water for shorter time. When there is a high intensity rainfall is there, we can short. So this is actually one of the houses. It's like similarly, if there is 5,000 households, they hold water for short time. What happens? That much quantity of water won't reach to our existing drainage network, and that existing system can handle it. So that is the thing. People, they use it for this kind of approaches for stopping flood volume and flood peak. And similarly, you can say, look at this. This is looking like a normal pavement, but the pavement is made such a designed such a way that it would be allowing water to infiltrate and having some kind of vegetation which will be enhancing evapotranspiration. In the same time, under this pavement, there is a structure made such a way that there is a gravel filled storage. So only the water will be infiltrated down, and it won't directly go to the sewage network or the stormwater, and it will be going to the system only if it is exceeding the storage. So similarly, look at this. This is a parking lot. So rather than having a normal parking lot, they have a storage and infiltration facility in parking lot they made. But this is actually made of such a design which is infiltrating water to allow water to go down, and under that there will be some facility to store water. And look at this. This is a bio-retention area near to the parking lots. When water is rainfall occurs, this water will come to this area. There is soil is there, and some facility made it for water to pond it there rather than going to the only if water exceeding that level, it will be going to the our drainage. Look at this. It's a curved design. Even this kind of near the roads, this kind of curves are designed such a way that allowing water to run through some kind of vegetation, and we can actually enhance, because this kind of structures will be enhancing some natural processes like sedimentation, infiltration, filtration, attenuation, evapotranspiration. So in that way, we can actually incorporate this kind of approaches, LID approaches in city planning. So advantage is this is a so please everyone please
everyone mute yourself.
So you can see that this kind of structures are suitable for any kind of landscape, irrespective of the size. Even it is suitable for street, any kind of parking lots, parklands. That is the advantage of this kind of things. So similarly, some other pictures I have shown here. Again, here you can see a curve is extended such a way that it is having the vegetation, allowing water to pond and infiltrate. Also, you can see soils you might have seen near the roads, this kind of vegetations, and properly designed and engineered soils you might have seen. And the land is actually having some slopey kind of a situation. There is also engineering interventions possible for water to hold for some time, allowing water to infiltrate more, such a way that the outlet you won't find any kind of lead volume. So you might have seen this kind of structures also in cities, like stormwater planters, normal plantations, but the plantations are designed, the size, the type of soil, etc., decided based on engineering considerations such that more water can hold it there and allow water to infiltrate there. This kind of city, in cities, you might have seen larger trees are planted artificially. You can see tree box filter, we call it as. If you look into this inside of this, it will be having a structure like this. It's properly designed, having sufficient soil for the type of tree to grow. And under that, there will be like a storage gravel filled area. So water will be filled there, and only if the storage is full. If we have 500 trees of this kind, we can actually control quite a lot of volume of water which is going to. These are some examples I'm saying, and a lot of literature you can find in publications you can find. Similarly, you can see, depending upon the contour, this kind of infiltration trenches people are doing, infiltration trenches with the perforated pipes for removing water from flood kind of situations. This all very commonly there, but we can effectively use. What I'm trying to say here is, if you have proper planning, we can actually, landscaping can be done in better manner in cities, which will be giving water benefits and flood control at same time. So some of you are having doubts in your mind, what are the benefits you are going to get from this kind of things? So here I have shown some, first of all, the flood volume or storm water which is going out of your catchment will be of better quality because it is flowing through some kind of vegetation. We can reduce the flooding events. And if there is aquatic habitat there, it will be getting improved. In cities, you heard of heat island related issues. If there is more water presence in the city, that ambient temperature would go down, and again, more carbon sequestration. And these are the benefits you are getting. And in terms of money, some of these benefits in terms of money is very hard to quantify. In the same time, look at this situation. One is actually before LID approach and after. You can see that even city, that place value will go up and quality of life would be better there. You can see more greenery is there. And you can see the aesthetic sense of that, aesthetic value of that place would go up, and more groundwater recharge will be there. And in cities, like most of the Indian cities, we have issues like combined sewer overflow situation is there. More sewer would come out to the city. This is mainly because of urban floods. So this can be reduced if we have this kind of interventions. And we can also save money for pavement, curves, gutters, etc. If you properly plan. Rather than planning city planning separately from the water planning, if you combine these two, we can actually save money also. And sometimes what will happen, we build certain city we build without thinking about this aspect. Later, we need to have larger setups for stormwater management, like some cities you might have seen, they later may go for rainwater detention basins or pipe-based systems. This can be avoided if you properly plan well in advance, considering these the benefits of this kind of aspects. And again, the property value will go high. You can see nowadays people are looking for places, waterfront, the places where we can see more water is there. So the value of water is actually important in that sense. These are the aspects. Now you must be thinking, how would I do in engineered? What are the ways we can incorporate this? Many models are available for handling this. One good example I will explain. So models are nothing but there's a mathematical representation of real situation. Look at this situation. You can see in urban area, we have a lot of water bodies. We have people are living there, industries are there, a lot of influence are there, pipe networks may be there. There'll be canals may be there. These all aspects need to be incorporated in a model, in a mathematical model. So one good example is Mike Urban is such a good model. Now they replace it with the Mike Plus. It's a commercial model. There are many non-commercial and freely available models are also there. If you incorporate this kind of engineering concept, we can actually we can incorporate water distribution system, stormwater management, drainage system, sewer collection, etc. together, such a way that existing natural landscape can be used for reducing flood management. So this kind of models works in two ways. One is actually considering the whole catchment as a single unit and look into what are the different LIDs. You can decide how many houses we need to have this kind of water storage structures. So this all we can get an idea. Quantitatively, we can actually propose how many we can have, plan it properly. And some other way this model can be used considering the networks. In some places there may be existing pipe network or canal network. For a good example is Kolkata. There are like some drainage sewage areas like or stormwater canals are there. In the same time, piped networks also there. So these models will give you some kind of hydraulic assessment also to decide what are the whatever the stormwater solutions we are proposing is meaningful or not for that particular region. And LID approaches, whatever pictures I have shown, these all, for example, bioretention cells, porous pavement, infiltration trench, rain barrels, these soils, vegetative soils, these all can be incorporated in the model, and even we can incorporate in the city planning. We can decide which place, what size, what kind of material, what kind of soil, this all we can decide if you properly use this kind of tools. Look at this, I already shown earlier, bioretention cell means this is a bioretention area or bioswale. This is a vegetation, but how would you decide what should be the size, what should the depth of the soil? These all actually can be done in this model. If you look into this conceptual diagram of this LID of this, we can look into this. You can say what we have control on the type of vegetation, what should be the depth, what type of the soil, and what should be the size of the storage space, etc. can be controlled, and we can plan it, and which are the places, locations, etc. can be planned. And similarly, this is a rain garden near to houses. How many houses they have? We can have rain gardens, and what should be the size? We can actually, as a policy, we can actually recommend to the people over there to keep it such a rain gardens, not only for this gardening purpose. In the same time, a lot of water benefits are actually getting from there. And similarly, look at this is actually a pavement. Pavement can be designed such a way that we use porous concrete or porous alpha the porous mixes we'll be using, which we can decide what kind of what depth, etc. And this is actually, but this all having a cost involved, sometimes an extra cost involved with that kind of from the conventional thought, but some countries are effectively using it. Similarly, with if you have barrels, every houses they store some quantity for 500 liters, every houses 500 houses. You can imagine the quantity of the water we can actually store to deal with the flood kind of situation. When there is an unusual rainfall, we can actually deal with the existing system itself. We can manage our flood control. So if you think whether it's I have mentioned many things, whether any countries implemented it or not, it is there. You can find that this is actually a picture from Australia. You can see they called us water sensitive urban design. They are implemented effectively. Even in a city area, it looks more greenery, and at the same time, whatever the benefits I mentioned, they are achieving. In UK, they call it as blue-green cities. You can find a lot of literature on blue-green cities, how they effectively they are using. They have some kind of near roads are there, but near to the roads, near to the pavement, they made such a way that more infiltration is happening rather than this old water going like runoff. And similarly, you can see that in New Zealand, they called us low impact development urban designs. Very recent and very contemporary example is from China. They called us sponge city concept, sponge city. So what is the meaning of sponge? You know, they consider the whole region as a sponge, whatever rainfall, water available, even wastewater, they won't allow that to escape or go from that place. A maximum water to infiltrate, and even if some quantity of water is going out of the system, they make sure that it is of reasonable quality, which is not polluting the existing system. So adopted some kind of LID approaches along with the traditional. These are traditional cities they have adopted. They improved, upgraded traditional drainage networks, and they respected the natural water bodies over there and implemented this all better manner. I can show you some pictures. Look at this. This is actually a picture from Jiangbei district of China. You can see this is a cycle path, but it is actually serving like a storage space and store rainfall. And you can see the parking lot also nearby. This is a good example, biosphere. These are engineered biospheres. This is actually an artificial wetland. You can see in most of our cities, we have wetlands. Those are natural. This is actually, they made a larger city. Near to that, they engineered, artificially made a wetland such a way that whatever water is actually coming from there is actually going to there and storing, like acting like a, we can say reservoir to rather than flooding the city. If you look into the case of cities like Chennai and all, we are there facing most of the flood issues because we are not respecting wetlands. All wetlands are gone. Earlier, it was actually serving like this kind of thing. Then some cities, some bigger, some other countries, bigger cities, what they do, they engineer, they keep place only for wetlands, such that they can protect the cities and business interest over there. So this is actually on table. I got it from Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development of China. Look at this. Whatever the techniques pictures I have shown here, for example, permeable pavement, green roof, their benefits, what are the water benefits they're getting, whether it's good for water storage, whether it's good for improving infiltration, whether it can use for water purification or peak, or what are the costs associated. Cost is a very important thing, especially in India. So what are the costs associated with it? How much suspended solids can be controlled? And aesthetic sense also very important, right? When you look into this, wetlands wouldn't look nice if you don't keep it properly. You can see how good it is for a city planning point of view. When the aesthetic sense of that city, how it is influencing, these aspects you can get from this table. See, this is again a picture I have taken from China. Sponge city concept I mentioned, right? Look at this, how they effectively use. These are big cities, but they use existing ponds, existing they managed effectively with considering this as a nature human system rather than considering wherever human living only concrete. We need to have a mixture of both. They effectively use the LID approaches, considering rain gardens, stormwater retention ponds. They consider the hydrological aspects of catchment. Whatever I explained, hydrological cycles. They improved landscaping. They consider along with ecology and hydrology together. Then they could make the city looking nice, and lot of ecosystem benefits and provisions they achieved. Many papers you can find in literature. And this is not alone the government job. You can see government institutions, just like in our case, panchayats and all, and even people participation, they could achieve this. This is a good example you can see. So now I mentioned many examples. What is the cost associated with that? If you properly plan it, we can have an effective cost reduction also. Some aspects with benefits we are getting in terms of aesthetic sense of, for example, habitat is improving. We cannot quantify in terms of money, because if there is more water related habitat is improving, it's another thing, right? We cannot quantify in terms of money. And quality of life over there, people quality of life would improve, and people will be more happy to live in places where there is more greenery and all. And what good example I have taken from America, this is actually a case study from southwestern Wisconsin. They wanted to have a development project, and in this area, that Auburn Hill area, what they planned well in advance, considering open soils and bioretention area. Normally what happens, we build the thing and later we think about stormwater management. Instead of thinking it separately, they combined these two, and you can see the numerical values here, how much they saved in terms of site preparation. 24% they could save actually. Stormwater management separately we normally do, but when they planned it well, 64% they could save in that. Only spending they could do, extra spending they could do on landscaping, because you need to consider a bit more extra landscaping. So apart from that, if you look into the saving, they could actually save effectively. But these kind of solutions are depending upon the case specific and place specific, and depending upon the place, whether it's having high rainfall. You need to think about the actual data getting from this kind of places. Then only you can plan it. So now I have mentioned a very aspect, but at least in Kerala point of view, what are the things we can do for urban planning? First of all, we have a lot of water related regulations. Urban river zoning related regulations are there. We need to make sure that our staffs, our local authority, even employees over there, those who need to look after this kind of regulations, need to make sure that they're respecting it and it's enforced properly, so that we can avoid encroachment and all. And other regulations are related to eco-sensitive zones. We cannot be very rigid on that, but this is an area where a lot of conflicts are there. People with the different interests are there, a lot of issues there for local bodies to manage. But we need to, if these regulations are managed properly, we can, and also we need to consider every water bodies in the urban area, you need to respect it and also consider it's a natural entity. Every rivers have got its own floodplain. If you encroach this floodplain and make construction, and later you cannot blame that the flood is happening, because you need to consider rivers as a natural entity and respect it. And you need to, good example is here. If you look at this figure from South Korea, Cheongjin River, 1949 and 2018 picture. That time the country was not developed. When even then they developed, the river is very small. They made sure that there is a natural space. They protected the bank and ensured that actually whatever the natural zones along the river, they protected it. Then only they think about the thought of water development. And sometimes you can see in Kerala and all, we are facing problems when after the dam, there is less flow. So you need to make sure that minimum flow is there in the river, even if you construct the dam. In some places, what happens, there is a carrying capacity of the river is affected because of sedimentations, because we cannot take soil, sediments or sand from the river. Sometimes that is affecting the health of the river. We can maintain that. If you maintain, and again, if you want to bring back or respect the river in urban rivers, it should be a decentralized approach. It shouldn't be top-down approach. People should feel, it should be bottom-up approach. People should be feeling, they should be part of the game. They should be considered, they should be part of these all activities. Then only it will become successful, especially river rejuvenation program and all. So these are the things as in Kerala point of view you can consider. So by this, I'm just concluding, we need to consider water planning along with the city planning, and LID approach is a good philosophy. We can see many countries being adopted, and depending upon the place and location, rainfall intensity, etc., this varies, but we can consider this another method for avoiding urban flood and use water efficiently. And Sponge City concept from China is a good contemporary example. They use this for flood reduction through natural flood risk management. So thank you. If you have any questions, we will take it later. Thank you very much.
I think you may continue sharing the slide. Gaurav
Yeah, I
has
think-
joined.
Professor Gaurav?
Hi everyone. Hi, Professor George.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
I
yeah.
have to
okay,
share
we-
my
we-
screen?
No, no, we will share the screen if you want.
Okay, perfect then.
Okay. This is not the thing. Is it shared?
Yes, sir, it's visible. But it's still not in presentation mode.
I think
Yeah,
it's
one
slide
minute.
number 48.
48.
48.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
slide share. Yeah, is it okay?
Yes, perfectly fine. Thank you so much, Professor
Thank
George.
you,
so
thank you,
much.
thank you, Professor Gaurav. You may
Thank
continue.
you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much, Kila, for having us here in this talk. So, first of all, I'd like to have your give my sincere apology for the background noises you may sometimes hear because right now I'm in Howrah railway station because of some unfortunate reason. So please forgive me for that. Okay. So let's start. Being a agriculturalist and also an environmentalist, I would say myself. Professor, can we go back to the last slide on the beginning one? Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you. I'll say next. Maybe it'll be better than after that. Okay. So what I'll be discussing here, once I had a discussion with Professor George and other professors, we discuss about how Kerala can be benefited out of it and how this lecture can be of something that in Kerala we can implement those kind of technologies and specifically related to their urban infrastructure. And so to start with, I'll not go in details, but I'll go a very brief discussion about the 3D agricultural systems and its application in the urban farming, and also the coastal aquaculture, the need of coastal aquaculture being Kerala, because Kerala being the one of the states that we have it in India, having maximum one of the major coastal region. So can you go to the next, Professor? So to start with, why we need to go ahead with this agricultural practices, the advancement in agricultural practices, as other professors have already pointed it out, like we need at this moment, there are some lacunas which Kerala is facing right now regarding its agricultural practices and all. And so to start with, United Nations come up with this Sustainable Development Goal in 2015, where they have formulated, like they have actually mentioned 17 different goals which has to be addressed by the end of 2030. And in order to do so, all the governments and the policymakers are advised to include the policies in such a way, restructure their policies in such a way that we can achieve these goals. And believe me or not, and agricultural practices, sustainable agricultural practices are the one which can give the most number of, which can give us the opportunity to achieve most number of goals out of all these 17. Can you go to the next? So 3D agriculture systems. So as you all know, I think, like, what is 3D agriculture systems? In general, when we draw a line, it's a 1D. When we draw a square, it's a 2D. When we make a cube out of it, it becomes a 3D. So it's nothing but 3-dimensional agricultural systems. The normal agricultural systems that we normally thought about whenever agriculture comes into the, like we hear the word agriculture, it's majorly the 2D. It's majorly the land-based agriculture, soil-based agriculture, which is kind of 2D, it's 2-dimensional. But when we keep on simply say, like, we are vertically stacking the same agriculture systems one after another, and we go vertically upwards, then it will be considered as a 3D agriculture systems. Can I go to the next slide, please, Professor? So But at this moment of time, in 2023, if you see the picture which is in the above side, above, you see in the leftmost side, we have this livestock farming, then the agricultural practices, then the transportation, then the agricultural vehicles, all the off-road vehicles that we normally use in agricultural practices, aquacultural uses, and the transport, all the need for the transport system for all the farm produce to come to the cities or the area which are having the maximum amount of demand. All this procedure is greenhouse gas. All this procedure are very much it causes a huge maximum amount of effect on the greenhouse gas formation and all. And if I am correct, the agriculture system itself is one of the major contributor of greenhouse gas emission can be as high as, like, if I'm correct, it can be as high as 17% of the total. By the end of 2040, what we're targeting, why we need to go ahead with it vertically upwards. Just imagine the picture that we have here in the bottom. If we go vertically up, so growing the fishes and as well as the crops in a single building, or say like in a vertically extended greenhouses, we can simply leave the area which are priorly used for agriculture purposes or the aquaculture purposes for gauging of the animals. So livestock can get the maximum amount of natural food. At the same time, the greenhouse emission can be drastically controlled by using this kind of technology. Can we go to the next slide? So hydroponics. I think you all know about hydroponics, how hydroponics. So hydroponics is one of the major like idea, one of the major road, I would say, like by which we can actually reach those goals. What hydroponics, how hydroponic works, like majorly the nutrients that the crop needs through the soil surface, the soil media and all, we're providing them artificial. It's simply some like we add some nutrient solutions in the water systems and we agitate the water so that it will make a homogeneous solution, and then we'll pump that water to the root system of the crops. It can be nutrient film technique, as you can see in the left bottom. Then the deep water culture, where nutrient system itself act as a media for the roots available for the crops. Then we can have the wick systems, when the small ropes can be utilized, which can be act as a, which uses the forces the forces like capillary action, and so that water will come and reach to the root system of those crops. Then we can have the drip systems, we can have event flow and all this. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is how it will look like in the hydroponic systems. If you see, we have a floating media, we have a floating systems, thermocol or something like that. Then we have this pots and as well as the growing media. Growing media can be coconut foil, Leica balls, anything or everything. We can use this growing as a growing media, and we can easily grow the vegetables, especially the leafy vegetables, in a multiple the yield can be increased like anything than the normal land-based agriculture. Can you go to the next slide, Professor? Another of that sort of technology is called the aquaponic system. What aquaponic system is all about, you can understand from the name aqua. It's a water. So it's like aquatic species. We are growing the aquatic species like say fish. So once we grow the fishes, it needs some feed. So according to the like a lot of researchers, that fish normally takes not more than 70 to 80% of the feed that we normally provide. So a huge proportion of feed is normally being wasted. Plus the fish, it generates some excretory products. Those excretory products also causing a huge amount of water pollution. So just imagine, even for the fish only, after a certain period of time, it will be unbreathable. It will be really unrealistic for them to survive there in the same water body that they are surviving. If we not treat the water is where the fishes are being dwelling. So what we can do, that wastewater, it does contain a huge amount of ammonia. So that ammonia, if we can somehow convert it into nitrate, NO3, so then this nitrate is a favorite food for the crops. So let's do it. So what we can do, we can take that ammonia-rich wastewater to the bioreactor. You can see a small spraying like thingy revolving. That is the bioreactor. In the bioreactor, nitrification occurs. In the nitrification process, ammonia converts into nitrate. So that nitrate is now a favorite food for the crops. Now you supply it to the crops and they will be very happily grow. They can grow very happily. And then like this way, we can have a system which can grow the fishes as well as, not only fishes, any aquatic species as well as crops harmoniously. And it will reduce the water consumption. Why? Because after the uses by the crop, whatever after crop will consume the nitrate present in the water or any and also other nutrients, micronutrients, that water again pumped back to the fish tank. So this way we can reserve the we can go for zero water discharge system. Though you may have asked, like, what about the evaporation and what about the transpiration? There must be some amount of losses, definitely. That losses also can be revived back by having a proper amount of proper design of greenhouse systems. Can you go to the next slide, Professor? Yeah. Uh, am I audible, or like is the background noises really bad, or is it okay?
It's okay, sir. It's good.
Okay, thank you so much. So next technology that I want to talk about is aeroponic systems. In the aeroponic systems, as you can see in the right bottom, it's like we are vertically going upwards, and we are providing the nutrient media just like a spraying mechanism, using a mist blower, using a dripper, using a foggers. We just supply the exact amount of nutrient that it requires for the crop to grow in its root system. And by this way, we can have it, we can control the amount of water that it discharges, we can control the amount of nutrient that it requires for the crops to grow. And by this way, we can actually increase the amount of yield that we need, that can be that we can produce in a particular square unit of area. Just imagine this any of this aeroponic tower. Suppose it's like, say, 1 meter of diameter. So if it's like 1 meter of diameter, it has a certain area which can be utilized for, say, like 3 to 4 amount of lettuce to grow. Whereas if you see the systems where they are growing more than 200 to 300 lettuces in this small structure. So just imagine the yield multiplication that is happening in this kind of systems. If you go to the left bottom picture, it's nothing but the potato. And believe me or not, this is happening in India. In India, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, what they're doing, they have, I think in their Shimla chapter, there is a research center in Shimla. They're growing this potato aeroponically. With the aeroponic system, just imagine, even a couple of years back also, we cannot imagine that potato can be grown without the in absence of soil. But believe me or not, it is possible, and it has been done by different researchers. Can you go to the next slide? So once we have the systems, all the hydroponics, aquaponics, or aeroponics, if we go vertically up, then we consider this method as a vertical farming. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So if you see this structure, if you see this design, what we thought of, like, see in the middle, the green ones, the green chambers that you can see, those are nothing but the vertical gardens, so where we can easily grow the vegetables and the herbs. In the right, it's a facade of it. If you see the solar energy where solar panels are installed, and how the solar panels are installed, you can say that if solar panels are installed, so it will block the sunlight. But believe me, we are designing, along with the National Institute of Solar Energy, Gurgaon, we are designing a type of solar panel which uses the chemicals, which uses the its ingredients in such a way that it will only consume the solar energy and let pass the wavelength of solar energy, wavelength of couple of the sun rays, which, I mean, like, just to give you one, let's make it simple. We have, say, like, from 100 to 500 to 1200 nanometer of wavelength. Out of them, our crops, they love to grow in a photosynthetically active radiations. This PAR very important. Photosynthetically active radiation means they love to grow it as, suppose, say, a green light of a certain wavelength and a blue light, red light of a certain wavelength and green light of a certain wavelength. So these panels are designed in such a way that it will pass the blue light of that particular wavelength and red light of that particular wavelength. So all the rest of the wavelength of the light is being consumed by the these panels. They consume the sun rays, and they generate the electricity. Whereas they let the beneficial wavelength of light to pass through it, which comes in contact with the crop, and it will be very happy. It takes that part of the sun rays, and it actually does the photosynthesis in its normal way. Now this vegetables, this crops and all, how we can grow. Can we go back just for a second here? This all the benefit. Professor, can we go back to the last one? That's this. Yeah, just to give you one, this in this farm we are growing the chicken, we're growing the fish, pigs, and we package the vegetables and as well as the other products as well. So this is like a complete system. This is what agriculture will look like in near future. Forget about near future. It's happening. It's happening in Europe, in different places, in USA also. People are starting. So being one of the most advanced states in the in India, so I would really request like the people from Kerala to come forward and actually accept this kind of technology. It has some initial capital forefront, but believe me, the payback period is good enough because the multitude of yield that we are growing, which we can get out of it, it's enormous. And also this kind of system is called IMTA, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, because multi-trophic agriculture, because what we're doing agriculture, we're doing pig farming, chicken farming, fishes and all in the same building. So this building itself is a kind of agricultural farm. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So this is also another concept of this. If you see this light bluish tank, those tanks are nothing but the fish tank, and the water comes to the in the left bottommost part where the central wastewater treatment is happening. It's nothing but some kind of bioreactors. Those bioreactors are converting the ammonia to nitrate, and those nitrates are then being pumped to the vegetable farming space. And so this is how. And then the top, the solar rays being utilized for the solar. We have a photovoltaic installations there, so they will utilize the sun rays and they will simply supply the energy to the off-grid. So can you go to the next slide? So these are some of the examples. I'll go very quickly through it. This Arrow Farms in New Jersey, USA. What I was discussing with you, this is what they are doing. You see this different stacks of vertical farming, what they are doing. In these different stacks, they are growing different kind of leafy vegetables and using the aeroponic systems. In the Arrow Farm, where it is written Arrow Farm, they are nothing but there are some foggers installed there. So they what this fogger, they're exactly spraying the amount of nutrient required for the crop to be. Okay. Can I go to the next slide? Yeah, like the same way. This is one of the most futuristic, I would say, like project as of now we have in agricultural systems in the world, which is in University of Wagga Wagga, Australia, and they are trying to develop a 1900-acre complete robotic agricultural farm, which will be named as Hands-Free Farm, and this will, believe me, it will revolutionize agriculture, and from 10 to 20 years from now, this is what agriculture will look like. Next slide, please. Even the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So NASA, even other, and also European Space Agency, even also ISRO also started preparing for the interplanetary missions and all. And that in those interplanetary missions and all, we cannot suppose we had a plan to go like 10 years from now, but we have to start from now. Like, what will be the how we'll optimize the resources, how we'll actually provide the necessary resources possible for the human being to survive there on this interplanetary missions. And that's why they are also started growing these kind of different aquaponic, hydroponic systems, and they are working on it. And so that's to sustain the pioneers working in the deep space situation. Can we go to the next? In, uh, so can you give me 1 second?
You want to go back?
No, I think the background noise is a lot. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, so in this can I go to the last one, last slide? So this is the first aquaculture farm that we, and actually I would say like an aquaponic farm that we are planning to have it in Mars, and definitely outer space. There is a joint venture by SpaceX. We all know Elon Musk and the Sun from Europe. So they have announced and they have given the tender to MAT filtration technology for designing and installation of first ever recirculating aquaculture systems in the outer space. Can we go to the next slide? And they are actually planning to have it by the end of 2029, which will be the 7th stage of Mars One project. Even before the 2032 first human being is supposed to be landed, or supposed to put their footprint on the Mars, and even before a human being, there will be one aquaponic system on the planet of Mars. So that is what we're going. Please forgive me with these pictures. These pictures are actually not the exact ones, because this is a confidential thing. So it's kind of a imaginary diagram by different architects and all. Can you go to the next one? Yeah. So what we have discussed in the last couple of minutes, it's all about the 3D agricultural systems and all, how it can be implemented, what are the advancement that is going on, and how those can be actually the people in Kerala can think about implementing those technologies. Then we have this aquaculture systems. Why I want to discuss about this in a very few minutes, it's actually because of the being the position that Kerala is right now in like, I mean, like Kerala is in the map of India. So it has a huge coastal belt, and those coastal belts are, frankly speaking, is being utilized much more than the other states in India. But still, there are a lot of opportunities which are lying there, and there are a lot of opportunities, lot of possibilities that people in Kerala and the governments and the policymakers can actually somehow harvest huge economic as well as livelihood opportunity from this coastal areas of the Kerala. So considering the when we talk about the opportunities, I would suggest there are three primary production opportunities that lies in the Kerala's point of view. First is on-land finfish recirculated aquaculture system, or RAS in short we call it. Second is offshore finfish aquaculture systems. Third is bivalve and seaweed aquaculture systems. I hope you all know what is finfish. We all know what is recirculated aquaculture system. It's nothing but, you remember we discussed the fishes are creating a lot of nuisance. They are creating a lot of wastewater. It needs to be treated. So in general, this wastewater is continuously being treated in an aquaculture farm. And then it is called the recirculating aquaculture systems, or RAS. So this RAS is something that will revolutionize in a near, I would say, like in a near decades. And also the offshore finfish aquaculture system, like the cages, the pen culture, which can be done on the coastal regions and a little bit far from the coastal regions as well. Then there comes the bivalves, which are like clams, mussels, oyster, which we all like, and the seaweeds. We all know the necessity of, we all like the sushi, right? Japanese sushi. What you can find there, the seaweed. The seaweed is very costly. In India, we have a lot of opportunity of possibilities, but we are hardly utilizing, it's like a percentage of it, like merely a percentage of it, I'm telling. Can we go to the next one? So this is how this, in case this is suppose this is the Kerala condition. So we have what are the positions where actually we can, this green colored ones are the one where we can actually target, considering the Kerala's current situation. Kerala has a huge amount of backwater resources, which in the backwater resources, definitely it has the belt of mangroves. So we don't want to touch there. Being a aquaculturist and being a environmentalist, I don't want to want a government decisions or any policymakers to be involving in the mangrove belt. But we can go ahead with this point one. You see the point one in the top right circular figure. This one is nothing but the place where we can go ahead with the seaweed farming. And Kerala has a lot of opportunity, and only to the best of my knowledge, only one farm is right now operating in Kerala, though it has a higher capacity. But there are a lot of other, like the government should come with some policies to actually implement it and increase the production of seaweed farming in Kerala. Next is the net pen farming. If you see the position with the number 2, nothing but different kind of cages or the pens that we can install, and those are having a very high opportunity because it doesn't need any resources. The once you install it, and that's it. You don't have to worry about any additional resources there. Natural food, natural the cleaning, natural wastewater cleaning phenomena, natural pesticide. They will, like, everything will be natural. It just, after us, it will be in certain enclosure, so that you will go there and you'll bring it back and you will have your catch. Then you can go to the offshore aquaculture, offshore cage summary in the number 3 that it shows. You go further deep and you can design a cage like a circular, hexagonal, or certain other structures. And those cages are initially, it's a very the capital investment is high, but the benefit is very enormous, and with a very almost zero recurring involvement. Can you go to the next slide? So what are the major operational drivers for aquaculture production operations. I would say first is feed conversion ratio. We have to target the fishes which has a higher feed conversion ratio. Growth rate is should be high. Stocking density should be maintained. Stocking density talks about, when I talk about stocking density, you have to be very cautious about if it is an extensive system, semi-intensive or intensive. If it's an intensive system, you have to worry about the one thing that it is those species is completely relying on you. So whatever the food, whatever the resources that you input that you provide, based on that only it will grow and survive. So stocking density is something that we need to be very cautious about. Normal mortality rate, animal health and welfare, product quality, consistency, and definitely this is something very important considering a business point of view. Several investment challenges which are there in this field. So being a policymaker, I know a lot of like audiences, a lot of you may be representing the policymakers of government of Kerala. So I would really request to the challenges that we are facing. So please entertain those, and please make sure that the farmers are actually getting benefited out of it, and they will come forward and they will do this. They will take a little bit of risk and actually go ahead with this kind of practices. So to start with, which have a matching risks with return and investment hold period in capital intensive models. We have a finance. We have to worry about financing the early stage research and development fields in this particular sector, especially as seaweed, bivalves, and all. Financing the project development, including addressing the pilot plant risks, especially if it's a cage culture and all, and information asymmetry, knowledge barriers by in the aquaculture market by kind of, it's like I'm advertising for myself. So you take help from the aquaculture specialist or experts who can actually give you some input how this information asymmetry and knowledge barriers can be removed. And obviously the transactional fiction of financing the new type of assets. So this mentality is something very important to come to actually accept the new technology, new processes. Can you go to the next slide? So this online finfish recycled aquaculture systems, I won't take much time. So this is how it will look like. If you see the picture, there will be a fish tank, and there we have to control the oxygen. Means we have to provide the aeration because they are also aerobic. They need to go ahead with aerobic respiration. They need oxygen and dissolve oxygen. So we provide them with the oxygen. Then the water will be treated through different filtration media, and then the water again comes back to the system. So this is for the recirculatory aquaculture system. Next, please. Offshore aquaculture system, as I already mentioned, it can be geodesic, submersible cage, normal submersible cage, cylindrical submersible cage, semi-submersible, oil leaks and all. So this is the different structure or designs. Those are now very much famous, and I would really request all the policymakers to involve their to broaden the possibility for their local farmers and all to kind of convince them to go ahead with this kind of aquaculture practices, offshore aquaculture. Let's go to the next. So here how it will look like. So if you just think about current scenario in Kerala, just imagine after 5 years from now, you go further a little bit away from the coastal regions. You design some submersible cage on it where you can go ahead with the finfish farming. It will be a like suppose level like a stack of submersible cages one after another, and you can actually go there and you can actually have your harvest, and you can simply process it and simply transport it to the market. And as to the best of my knowledge, there are a lot of airports and the seaport available in the coastal region of Kerala, which are near to the vicinity of this transportation, so which will be just perfect for Kerala to bloom in this particular city. Can we go to the next slide? Bivalves and seaweeds. So see, as we mentioned, the seaweeds are something, it's the green gold for us. This year, government has provided more than 640 crores of investment for the advancement of seaweed farming in India. But there are still a lot of lacuna. There are more than 544 species has already been identified, and we are trying to identify few more. We have already like there is a process going on right now with us. There is a high chance we'll identify some few more species in the Indian coastal region, and we'll definitely encourage all the policymakers in India to actually please go ahead and involve your farmers to go to do this seaweed farming, because of the economic return that can provide to the self-help groups or the farmers producer organizations. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so this is how it will look like. You can have different kind of systems. We can simply grow like long line method in the left side, what we call. Then the next one is also a particle raft method that also we can go ahead with this for the seaweed. Next one. Next. So integrated multi-trophic aquaculture system. One of the last topic that I want to discuss about integrated multi-trophic aquaculture systems. So can we go to the next one? If you see in this system, in the left one, we're having a cage. Suppose we're having a cage. Inside the cage, we're growing a different type of fin fishes. Inside the fin fishes will generate a lot of waste. Those wastes will go due to the force of gravity. It will go and settle down on the bottom. And in the bottom, we can grow different kind of detritus feeder. Who are the detritus feeder? Sea cucumber, streams, prawn. So they are the detritus feed. They love to grow there. So we can grow them as well. At the same time, we can grow seaweed, because seaweed is kind of a filter feed. Consume a lot of inorganic substances from the leaf, because it's nothing but a type of plant, isn't it? So it will consume a lot of inorganic substances from the inorganic pollutants from the system. And parallelly, we can also grow mussels or any other bivalves. These are also called the filter feed. Filter feeder means they will consume the organic pollutant. So just imagine a perfect scenario like this, where 3D ocean farming can be done. You can grow the fish, you can grow the seaweeds, you can grow the mussels, as well as you can grow the prawns. And those systems are not something far-fetched. We can actually do that. There are people who have done it and they get the success. This kind of systems will be the future of coastal aquaculture. And I'll be very happy to help the government of Canada, or like if any case it is possible. So to involve and also request the policymakers to actually involve in their policies the structure like the system like this in future. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Oh, this you have done share this. Stop sharing slide. Hello, Dr. Pashpina, are you available?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can share your slide and proceed.
Yes. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You will just have to put it in the presentation mode.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Today, I'm going to talk about biocentric approach for sustainable, resilient, and inclusive cities. So, biocentrism, Respect for Nature, a theory of environmental ethics by Taylor. He talks about biocentric outlook, which places equal moral consideration to all organization and ecosystems. So biocentric is also called as ecocentric, biospheric. And according to Taylor, that non-human entities have intrinsic value and deserve respect simply because they are a part of this whole interconnected web of life. So throughout this book, he examines specific ethical issues related to the environment, such as preservation of diversity, ethics for hunting, animal agriculture, and role of humans in ecological system. He presents the argument for moral duty to protect and care for a natural world, emphasizing importance of recognizing and fulfilling our responsibilities as a steward of the earth. So why biocentrism is important? So as a human being, we always think we are superior than all the animals, but we are integral member of Earth's interconnected communities of life. Our planet's ecosystems form a complex and interdependent web of elements. So it is essential to acknowledge the inherent worth of every organism and treat them as a valuable entities. So how do we get this biocentrism in architecture and planning? So it is an approach to design that prioritizes health and well-being of a natural environment through interconnected between human beings and ecosystem, then promote sustainable design practices that minimize negative environment impacts that can be done to utilize natural ventilation, lighting, heating, and it promotes integration of green spaces in urban planning. So it can be done through parks, public gardens, green roofs, walls, facades of building design. And the last is emphasize the importance of community engagement. Except if you remove community engagement, nothing is possible. With the help of community engagement, we can create more responsive and context-specific designs. So how this biocentric approach influence planning? So it influences environmental ethics, conservation biology, sustainable development approaches, and they emphasizes need to shift from human-centered approaches to more inclusive and holistic view that values and protects diversity. So there are already some existing systems like LEED, BREEAM, and so on, and they have their particular indicators. So I have jotted down all the indicators, and you can see that not everyone, it's not a holistic systems, and it can be some are covered and some are not covered. So broad are like location and transportation, sustainable site planning and management, environmental impact and resource efficiency, building and infrastructure planning, then quality of life, context specific, and life cycle assessment. So if all these systems are there, they are addressing some issues, then why do we need biocentrism? So through this valuable tool, biocentric approach, for assessing and promoting sustainable development practices in neighborhood, the concept of biocentric neighborhood development offer more holistic, ecologically focused approach. It offers ecological perspective, ecosystem services, human-centered connection, climate change, mitigation and adaptation, and social equity and justice. So when I talk about ecological perspective, it includes ecological principle, green spaces, natural corridors incorporated to support wildlife and enhance resilience, sustainable infrastructure and transportation, community involvement and education. When I talk about ecosystem services include clean air, water, climate regulation, pollination, recreational opportunities. Biocentric development recognizes the importance of maintaining the balance between human needs and preservation of ecosystem services. Human-centered connection is about creating a spaces which foster a stronger connection between humans and nature. It can provide a sense of belongingness. Then climate change and mitigation and adaptation, social equity and justice. It considers the social dimension of sustainability aiming to create inclusive, equitable, healthy communities. So when we talk about biocentric approach, biodiversity is a very big area into it. So there are in the world, there are 36 biodiversity hotspots and 4 are in India. So these hotspots are Himalaya, Western Ghats, Indo-Burma region and Sundarbans. So this Western Ghat, these are the hills found along the western edge of India. And as a region is mountainous and oceanic, it receives a good amount of rainfall. Around 77% of amphibian and 62% of reptiles are endemic. Moreover, the region is also home to around 450 species of birds, 140 mammals, 260 reptiles, and 175 amphibians. So what do we do about it? How do we preserve it? So I try to find some probable case studies for it. It is not completely a biocentric approach, but something near to that. So one of the case study is Singapore case study, where they have enhanced the greenery and biodiversity. So it was a unique approach for urban development, nature conservation from biocentric perspective. So they have 4 key approaches, like conservation of a key habitat, where they have safeguard and strengthen core areas, secure and enhance buffer areas, enrich and manage additional nodes of greenery throughout nation, and develop ecological connections. Then habitat enhancement, restoration, and species recovery was done. Then they did the applied research in conservation biology and planning. And in that, they have done the ground level research, flora, fauna survey, species recovery research. And the last is community stewardships and outreach nature. So in this, they built a public interest and involvement of biodiversity conversion, incorporate biodiversity in school curriculum and community in nature. So these are the conservation key habitats of Singapore. They have secured and enhanced the buffer areas, And these are the conservation of key habitats. So unreach and manage the additional nodes of greenery throughout the nation. So whatever green areas are fine, but how they have created vertical urban gardens, fire-rise greenery, and just look at this picture before how it was and how at present how it is. So you will get a lot of case studies on Singapore. It is one of the best example how they are converted into a green Singapore. And then they have developed ecological connections, the link that forms natural ways, park connector network. So in the greener area, look at the flyover and the air between the area. So what exactly this does is this links in the form of natural ways, park connector networks, eco-link. They routes planned with the specific trees and shrubs to facilitate movement of animal like birds and butterflies. They connect high biodiversity to urban communities designed to replicate a natural structure of the forest. And they, what is the use of this greenery in urban environment? It's like they reduce the heat island effect, serve as a buffers for from high wind speeds, filter pollutants and particulate matter. The rooftop and vertical greenery cools down buildings, reflect and absorb 40 to 80% radiation, reduce cooling energy requirements by up to 8%, and other positive effects like serving air filters, noise barriers. And this is the city in the garden by the bay, super trees. It is it blends nature with technology. This vertical garden resembling large futuristic trees, which is around 25 to 50 meters tall, made up of steel framework covered with diverse plants. It provides shade, shelter, support the vertical gardens, equipped with photovoltaic cell, harnessing solar energy and stunning nighttime illumination. So these are the pictures of the tree. There are a cluster of trail super trees within the garden, which is attached by a 128-meter long aerial walkway connecting two super structures. So biodiversity and environmental impact, it hosts a diverse collection of plants, enhancing overall biodiversity, provide habitat for flora and fauna, contribute environmental sustainability by serving air exhaust and receptacle cooling and conservation. So this is the night view. And their community stewardship and outreach in nature. So the principle of biodiversity is done in the community participation as well as curriculum. There's some initiative planting trees. Their goal is to increase green cover by 50%. The community engagement, what are the environmental and social benefits? The environmental benefits, obviously it is improved air quality, reduce urban heat island effect, enhance carbon sequestration, and climate change and mitigation. Social benefits are like community engagement, education, recreational opportunities, fostering pride and ownership among the residents. So who are all involved in this community engagement? The public, that is government and public ownership, then private industry, corporations, entrepreneurs, people, community, and social sphere. And these are the different initiatives done by the schools. So for monitoring their efforts, they have created Singapore Index, which measures and evaluate biodiversity ecosystems, services in urban areas. Then they measure the other factors such as presence of green spaces, native species, habitat quality, conservation efforts. It provides framework for the cities to assess their biodiversity conservation effort to make firm decision to promote sustainable development. So this is kind of overall how many indicators are there in Singapore Index. Another case study is from India, which is mobile reforestation project in Tamil Nadu. This is the scenario in 2003, and this is now into today. Issues in this area was the region was strongly suffering because of climate change and environmental devastation and scarcity of water. The rain-fed agriculture was difficult. Local people left their ancestral villages behind in search of employment. So the aim of this project was introduce growing number of people as sustainable living, food security, ecological transformation, wasteland reclamation, and veganism. So this was an amazing transformation of 70 acres of severely eroded arid land into vibrant, indigenous, tropical, dry, evergreen forests. And it was done through initiative where a second-hand bus was converted into mobile reforestation unit, and the mission to plant engineers drought-resistant food-bearing trees was started. Education, like both local people and international volunteers are educated with the importance of water. Biodegradable cleaning products are used, which do not exploit the environment. Then animal cruelty-free things were done. Then water conservation, the permaculture techniques were used. Participatory approach was there. Local people were involved in planting trees, carry out water conservation, training programs are organized in rural area that's suffering from drought and loss of livelihood. And through empowerment, like Sadhana Forest India allows villagers to cultivate their food and prevent exodus towards nearby city slums. So what is a way ahead? So as far as Kerala is concerned, the problems of Kerala, like floods and drought, it's due to, other than like climate change, there are several other factors like land use, land cover change, antecedent hydrologic conditions, reservoir storage, operation, encroachment of floodplains, and other natural factors. So already Professor Abraham George talked about just cities, justice for all, making cities living. Professor Varulevo talked about making cities living, mega region development. Professor Rameshan talked about climate and water center urban planning, stormwater planters, or bioretention cells, and Professor Bhomik talked about agricultural systems. These all local strategies can be combined into biocentric approach. It can be a tailor-made strategies to each local conditions, collaborating among the architects, urban designers, planners, ecologists, hydrologists, experts to ensure effective water-related issues. Other than this biocentric neighborhood development design approach is crucial for Indian neighborhoods. Integration of nature and sustainability in urban planning offers numerous benefits: conservation and restoration of a natural ecosystem, enhance the aesthetics and livability. So aesthetics, it's not just looking beautiful. The performance is also the city as a whole ecosystem, how it performs. That is very important. It promotes biodiversity, conservation and preservation of India's unique natural heritage, encourage sustainable development practices, reducing resource consumption and carbon emissions, enhances residents' quality of life, provides opportunities for recreational exercise, community building, addresses challenges of rapid urbanization and environmental degradation, offers visions for sustainable, resilient and livable communities, places nature at the center, benefiting both residents and environment. Thank you.
Can you just push the button some more enter?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one more. So thank you so much. You can stop sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, well, there are so many questions in chat box. I think our Aperture will be selecting all those things and copying it, copy all into the drive itself. And we are open here. I think Professor is here, and Ranji is here with me. Then Shreyas is online, Dr. Pashna is online. We can take up some questions. Myself and Ranji can answer in Malayalam also, no problem, to the extent possible. And then definitely Professor Shreyas is there smiling all the time, and he is ready to answer all questions. And Professor Ranji is also here, and he will be able to answer from his part. Yeah, thank you so much. And if there are any direct questions, please ask. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir, it's audible. Maybe I think I'll start. I have a question for Professor NG. Yeah, so you talked about a lot of law impact development approaches like biospheres, retention areas, green roofs and all. So I just wanted to know if there are any existing guidelines or that incorporates this LID ideas that we may refer to.
Yeah, there is no such guidelines from our government side as such, but you can find some based on this point city concept. You can find some general guidelines from other countries. Like you can also see blue-green cities. I mentioned about in UK. You can find some, and I share on table, right, which I have taken from such a document where you can see what kind of intervention would be good for tackling certain kind of water problems. For example, if you want to cut down flood volume or flood peak, so or if you want to have beautification of that place, same time you need to reduce the pollution or sediments in the water. So different kind of intervention we can select. These are based on some studies, but again, depending upon the situation over there, you need to select. And again, some recommendations you can find in the literature, but from Indian point of view, you won't find any such guidelines. But you can find some some central government ministries are doing some guidelines connected to rivers, wetlands, etc. But not as LID in general.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
So what about the local body heads? Is there any question that we need to, or all you have typed so that we can answer it later?
So we have a few questions in the chat box.
Chat box questions we will answer later.
Okay, sure,
Now
sir.
it is the time to ask questions.
See, I am Rajesh here.
Can you, could you please switch on your video?
I am Rajesh here.
Yep, thank you.
Additional chief town planner. Actually, I was going through that presentation regarding how the water is being filtered and then it's being used carried over to the rains after filtration. But I understand a lot of developed countries now they are looking at filtration process, but they are changing from the drain, which is closed pipe drains, to open systems. Slowly they are converting into that systems because that's more expensive and very cumbersome to maintain. So we have actually an open drain system in all over in all the most of the states and cities, and those percolation of water and that can be easily adopted. But we don't have to simply go in for the systems of piped systems for recouping the water and raising the water table.
Well, I will begin answering that, and then Renji or Gaurav can probably could you please keep that video on, that we will be getting a feeling that we are talking to each other. Yeah, good, thank you. The thing is that, see, one way you are talking about the open swale design, which was possible. It is in our campus also, this open swales are adopted. You can see that, but the requirement of area for a swale is much more than a pipe system. You know that. And another point, the age friendliness aspect, when you consider this, open swales are basically a danger point for them, especially when it comes to urban area. Now, I think this conflict is there, which it is not simply a matter of cost. It is a matter of obligation also of the country and our people. And I think Reggie can continue, or Gaurav, yeah, if you are available, you can.
What I understood, your question was connected to pipe system of stormwater, right? Pipe system.
Yeah.
Normally, if there is actually by open system means by gravity, it will flow to the ocean, right? In certain places, for example, which is very near to coastal region, for example, Kolkata is a good example, Chennai is a good example. This kind of places, we open system, Kolkata is a good example where you can find there is a canal system, at the same time pipe system also there. So some places we need to adopt pipe, but it's expensive. Whatever you said is actually correct. In stormwater management, pipe system is very expensive, and you need to have in between places, you need to have pump stations to pump from low. But natural systems are useful if they're by gravity, if there is actually draining properly to the ocean, But in some cities, some of our cities are actually having, it's very near to ocean, right? So there is very near to mean sea level. So there are the such issues also there. So Kolkata is a good example. You can see where pipe systems and open drainage systems are working effectively for flood, urban flood management. But to an extent, still there are floods are happening. If I hope I try to answer your question. But whatever the model I have explained, this can incorporate this hydrologic and hydraulic modeling and come up with some interventions suitable for that particular city, region, etc.
Gaurav, would you like to pitch in?
Yeah, Dr. Ramachandran, like I would like to get to know about some exact, like, kind of lead like that you're expecting from us.
Gaurav, can you
Because-
just put your video on?
Yeah. Is it?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the thing is, like, I would like to request Dr. Ramachandran, can you please like let us know that, can you narrow it on what exactly is the lead that you're expecting from this question? Actually, in general, before you ask me, let me give you one or couple of sentences, some brief. Like, once we use the open channel, and once we use the closed channels, and especially there are cities like, as Professor Renji has already mentioned, like Kolkata or any of the coastal cities, there it is possible to have different coastal and different open and closed channel for different purposes. We normally use the open channels for the stormwater delivery, and we can use the closed channel for the sewage, like the sewage delivery and all. However, sometimes this storm waters comes with certain amount of pollutants also. It will be very difficult if we have it will be very difficult for us to treat those pollutants in a normal wastewater treatment plants or the municipal wastewater treatment plants if we don't do this segregation in the cities, like especially cities like which are in the coastal regions, because it will be will be getting very less time for the stormwater to because we'll be getting a huge amount of the capacity of water in a very huge capacity of water in our treatment plant, especially when we're in a coastal city, if we are not doing this segregation. So is it something can answer your question, like Dr. Ramachandran? Please let me know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, thank you for your reply. But actually, my intention was basically our cities are more have open drains wherein when we have bioswales and then percolation is permitted to do, because everywhere now the culture is to pave and then close area. So when we have open systems have its own advantages. And also it will permit additional water if there is a heavy rainfall, which is coming then that also can be catered by the open drains. In certain cases where it can coexist also, but generally what I feel is like we had an interaction with AFD, Serima and all that with respect to these systems in France. So what they are trying to do is they are slowly changing from the closed drain systems and pipe systems to open drain systems. They are in the process of doing that, but both of them will coexist, but they are changing from that system. That filtration process, we have to evolve certain process of filtration like sponge parks and sponge areas where we can do that and then send it to the drains like that. So that I'm just telling that there is a shift from the existing systems in developed countries to, but Singapore has a lot of open drain systems and buffer zones, which takes care of all this. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
And
Dr.
we would like to, Gaurav, Professor Gaurav, would you like to continue?
Yeah, I'd like to continue. I'll be very quick. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramachandran, for this overview. It's really nice, and obviously the suggestions, the examples that you have given is perfect in France, even in Singapore, they are doing it. However, there is one problem with the countries like India. So like in Indian context, if you want to do this kind of system, they have the France as well as in Singapore, they have a very strict water treatment units, the wastewater treatment units. However, in our case, it's very difficult. So those storm water, if they will, somehow mix it with the wastewater drainage line for normal sewerage infrastructure, it can cause a huge economic load to the municipalities. And so it will take time, but you are right. Like maybe in future, we can actually reach to that level.
Thank you. Thank you. We would like to hear from the local authorities heads, because they are the people who really getting affected by it. Can anybody come forward? ലോക്കൽ പഞ്ചായത്തിൽ നിന്നോ മുനിസിപ്പാലിറ്റിയിൽ നിന്നോ ഉള്ള ആൾക്കാർ ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവർക്ക് മുൻപോട്ട് വന്ന് ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കാം. ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ?
So if we have time, there are like 70 people watching us, the live
Yeah.
streaming on YouTube.
Yeah, we are available till 5, no problem.
Yeah,
But
so if
all
you
your-
have time, we can
Yeah.
take up questions from YouTube.
Well, we don't want to switch the mode. Otherwise, all the questions typed will
So if
be
you-
answered. Can you read out the questions or somebody else? ആരെങ്കിലും
Yeah.
ആർക്കെങ്കിലും മുനിസിപ്പാലിറ്റിയെ റെപ്രസെന്റ് ചെയ്ത് ആരെങ്കിലും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പഞ്ചായത്തിനെ റെപ്രസെന്റ് ചെയ്ത് ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവരൊന്ന് ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കുന്നത് നല്ലതായിരിക്കും. A secretary, Thiruvananthapuram is there or Tirur is there, I don't know. Anybody there? Anyone? Okay, then Irene, you can proceed.
So there is a question in YouTube chat box. It is for Professor George. Can you please elaborate on the first 3 actions required in our public spaces that can make an inclusive public space for aging society?
Public spaces, number 1, it is basically the accessibility is the question that comes to my mind initially. And that is the primary importance. So if you look at that explanation that I gave, it is basically the non-coordination between the governmental organization that produces the problem of patching up the road at a later stage. That is when it is laid properly and then it is cut by the water authority, and then it is again it produces a problem, and then you know that till that time when the water pipes are laid, then the traffic gets affected, people cannot move, even able-bodied people cannot move. The second is the footpaths. Now there is an argument that we should not go for open, we should go for open drainage system, but then the advantage here the municipalities that our roads get is that by the same way where the drains are there, that is also used as the footpath. This is a reality there. So and if you want to expand or increase the width of the road, it is not going to be possible in Kerala. That we all know that land acquisition is a big process, and that will lead to multifarious problems. Other than you can probably think about constructing bypass of different stations required after studying the situation. But even that takes a lot of opposition. So in a state like ours, it is I would rather recommend a wider space for the people to move in. Now the problem is that again the shop owners, they encroach the roads. They encroach the roads, they encroach the water bodies, they encroach the rivers. Everywhere encroachment is an attitude. And if time permitted, I would have shown you the entire report that we have made a study in Delhi itself, where even the footpaths are occupied by the hawkers and vendors and people for chai walas and all those people are there. That's the same situation in Kerala also. You will find that everywhere. Now, the second thing, the barricades that you have now created. See, for example, I am from Changanur and the Changanur area. You will find that the municipality has started has constructed all the sides of the road with barricades, steel barricades or MSIN barricades. By what is, and then the police is coming there, they say that your vehicle is still, you cannot park here. But how do the shoppers survive? How do the shoppers will shop? The shops will survive. See, this type of barriers are not a real good solution for the adequacy of space. If you study Israel, for example, there are so many solutions for it they have developed. And those type of friendly solutions could be adopted rather than going for, yeah, I want to segregate. Okay, I will go for a barricade. This type of an attitude will stop the accessibility of the aged people. And then our transport systems has to consider the Equal Opportunity Act and the right which is granted by the Parliament of India, that our buses, why do we have low floor buses have come? That is also, it's a good thing. But still you saw the difficulty of a person trying to getting into the bus with a wheelchair. Now, either the government should enable the people and give them like foldable wheelchair or something, and then help somebody with the help of somebody only they will be able to get into. Whereas in developed countries, you know, when you come near to the bus and you have a platform coming down onto that, you can get your wheelchair locked in and then they will lift you up and you can get into the bus. This type of solutions are required. But again, you cannot also enter into the straight road sections. So you should have side spaces. That means widening of roads is an essential priority in our state. It is an essential priority. And, you know, especially straightening of roads and all those things. Now, how many of our elderly will find using this bus stations or maybe the bus stops, wherever the bus stops? Are there any shelters available? Are there any public toilets, maintained public toilets? You don't need the government. I won't say the government would put their hands in the everything. Why not a public organization? Why not a private organization or an NGO should come forward and take up this matter and with responsibility? You will have to pay definitely, but then that will maintain and that will be the, say, for in the case of Indore, I think this is being practiced. I think here my colleague is here from Indore and she will be able to explain. Now they will not you know, allow their own city, that is citizen auditing, if it is there. Now, see, another point is that, see, you put or means we have a culture in that we put all our waste outside the compound wall. Is it right? Now everything is on the footpath, and the footpath becomes non-usable. Nearness to footpath, how do you access the footpath? Then there are Pakka roads or Kacha roads, whatever it is. Even they may not have any facility for wheelchair. So, in considering all these things, if you just analyze the whole situation, you will find that any of the accessibility requirements are fulfilled, and you will find that we need a heavy rethinking and replanning of the streets of Kerala, where if the elderly is to find a smooth way of accessing and accessibility is to be assured for them. And this is equally true for pregnant women, people with heart problems, people with lung problems and all these things. And children, for example, see in some places I have seen, you know, on the school way people put flowers on the not to, you know, to beautify the area. But the children looking at the flowers, there is a possibility of accident also. So I think we have all given you our ideas about it. But finally, we have to go for a united togetherness, coherence in our approach, and then probably a biocentric means will be the only solution that will accommodate all these things. I hope that you will agree to this. Thank you. Any other?
Thank you so much, sir. So there are 2 more questions in the chat box. If we have time, we can take it up. Otherwise, I'll forward the questions to you and you may answer it later.
No. We are available for 15 more minutes.
Okay. So there was one question regarding the maritime laws associated with ocean farming. I think Professor Kaurav has already answered it in the chat box itself. So, and there is another question
Yeah.
regarding the Singapore model, Professor Pashmina had explained. It's regarding the financial model. What is the break-even finance model? And apart from tourist income, how much of the cost is recovered? And what percentage of the recovery is invested to gain into maintenance? Can ULBs learn and develop such projects sustainably, financially, and environmentally? Dr. Pashmina, would you like to take it up?
I think the economy model, I think you suggested that, Professor Gaurav, could you come forward? Professor Gaurav, I think he's gone. Okay.
He's not.
Hello.
He's there.
Professor Gaurav, yeah, you have
Yeah,
proposed economic model. Could you please explain that?
can you please repeat the question? I'm extremely sorry. I didn't. Can you please repeat the question
Yes, sir.
again?
But
Actually, I
this was
cannot see the
regarding
question right now
Singapore
in this
model, sir.
chat box.
So they have asked what is the break-even finance model, and apart from tourist income, how much of the cost has been recovered?
I'm sorry, but like Singapore model, if I'm correct, Professor Pashmina, is it the part that you have mentioned?
Yes.
Yes.
As far as break-even finance model is concerned, as per my knowledge, there isn't widely known, officially documented break-even finance model specific to Singapore that governs all its project is specified. However, Singapore is known for its effective urban planning, sustainable development strategy, and integrated approach to various sectors. And their approach is like comprehensive planning, where long-term planning consider population, economy, housing, infrastructure, and they have diversified economy. I mean, beyond tourism, they have finance, trade, and tech sector that contribute to their stability. Then they have efficient land use, which maximizes efficiency through mixed-use spaces and high density. Then they do have public-private collaboration, which engages private sector for funding and expertise. And they do have infrastructure investment, like government invest in transport, utilities, urban spaces. And they do have a green focus, green building, eco-friendly initiative, and sustainable practices. I hope that answers my questions. The question.
Yes, thank you, Professor. And there is one more question from Devika. One of the greatest challenges to implement green infrastructure and LID is that many solutions envisage the replacement of paved areas with green roads. In green roads, there is a limitation in the ROW, and features like rain gardens are rarely incorporated in representative section. So such strategies are then left to the individual designers to incorporate, and have there been any moves to incorporate such strategies via law? Is the question.
It is true that we cannot enforce, as a policy, we cannot actually force people to have, LID. Different strategies are there. Doesn't mean that in a city we can force people to adopt everything, right? So I'm saying when we have a smart city program or someone here developing new cities, we can actually, from everything starting from scratch, we can actually think of the residents having some idea about what are the LID approaches they can adopt. Again, it's city specific and the region specific, depending upon the catchment, depending upon how much rainfall is occurring there, and again, people willingness, their economic background, everything is as there. So it's true that whatever the question, the person who asked the question, it is true that we cannot implement everything in certain cases. But my idea was, I was telling that as a city planners, you can consider different aspects. These are LID, different LID approaches are also available, which can, if you effectively incorporate, probably will get a lot of water benefits, including urban flood management, etc. So whatever the person who asked the question, that's right. I'm agreeing with that, but again, we need to decide logically based on the region and people living there, which is suitable.
Again, one more thing that I have always emphasized: community and resilience, togetherness, and these are the factors that we need to promote as a people of the state. everyone has to think about it, not to bring in any sort of disintegration, but integration. And that community feeling has to be brought in. We have to own our state. Say, for example, in Australia, if you think a front yard is there, the front yard is there for your house, it is your responsibility to maintain that area. Otherwise, you should have a sort of a citizenship auditing that you might give, see, for the many cases I can quote, that you entrust it with some agency and some agency will not do anything. And that type of attitude should not be permitted by anybody, but then they should be monitored, and somehow this togetherness, I think social engineering should be sought in that, and probably Kila will take the initiatives for it. We are all here to help you out. Definitely, we are available here for any of such request if it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, we don't have any more questions. Should we wind up now?
It's up to you. We are all here. And yeah.
Maybe questions from the audience that is physically there.
Yeah, you can chip in now. You come here.
Few questions to ask Benji sir.
Yeah, you just talk to this.
So just ask.
Yeah, talk to the.
Okay, so my question was when sir was talking about urban floods and low impact design and this all those things. So I have stayed in Vadodara for 2 years. So a few things I had noticed that Vadodara experiences urban flood on a yearly basis, and it went to such an extent that for 2018, the whole city was a standstill for almost a week after a bout of rain.
So what's your question?
The question is the river Vishwamitri. It runs through the center of the town, and there is a lot of urban encroachment that causes that urban flood. And then there is river Mahin. That is also a monsoon-fed river. So on the embankment of the rivers, encroachment, that rich people are buying lands and building bungalows because of the scenic value, and the municipality doesn't seem to do much about it. And also river Sabarmati, which is kept bound by two things in the Ahmedabad stretch, but it's dry for most of the. So is it sustainable, and why? What can be done for management of these situations? So,
All right, so we can just stop. All right, so this question is about river, shore management. You can see that even in Kerala it is there. We have strong urban river-based regulations are there, and we have very good CRC rules are there. But the issue is that the local authority are they really enforcing it properly or not? As you mentioned, rich people, you really mentioned rich people, those who have some kind of bargaining power in politics, or that's happening. It's true. Everyone know. So, but if you really look into this, these rules and regulations, there are restrictions. Some area having restrictions, some areas totally banned. But only thing we can do, and people are encroaching to there legally or sometimes illegally, and later they're blaming government, saying that there is flood and government is not doing. So, but there are regulations. If everyone respect those regulations, they're flood. I mean, we have another thing is cities are like population issues there. We have less land. But in the same time, people wanted to come to waterfront places where wanted to have houses, later blaming. You cannot blame, right? It's that's what I said. We need to consider river as a natural entity. We need to know that when the monsoon time, river needs to have a floodplain. If you look into India, most of our Indian airports are in floodplains only. That's why in monsoon time, you can see we are stopping even airports. So we cannot think of any. We need to use, but we have no other option. we need to have development in the floodplain areas, but you need to have, government should have, and local authorities and people, those who are actually staff in local authority, they should have sensitized about the regulations. They should really think before doing this kind of permissions. Whether if you really look into this kind of permission, sometimes you can see that never happen, right? So something wrong going on at a local authority level. So that need to be rectified only through education and more of a civil community feeling. See, if everyone having consider river as a gift to everyone, and if you respect that, and that larger community feeling is there, this kind of things can be avoided. So yeah, going back is difficult because most of our cities are not properly planned. It's like it's over the time. It's been people are coming and going, and people are coming because of economic reasons, right? And going back also another issue, where it's a very big question. It's a political question rather than an academic person from. It's very difficult, you know. How can we ask person live there for 1 generation, 2 generation, a place to live, and same times you can see that the person may have some kind of legal authority that own the land, but it's in a floodplain and the person is affecting. So people should be aware of the situation rather than moving to. So as we can say, as young generation, when you think about buying a property, try to understand where you are going to buy and try to know the vulnerabilities there. Then you buy rather than encroach into that, then blaming government or understood. So there is no yes or no answer for that. It's like a very political, vague, gray area. So we need to find a solution.
Yeah, anyone else from this side? I encourage boys and girls to come on. We have got 2 more minutes or 3 minutes more, please. Yeah, please. See the resource person from Indore, the cleanest city is here. Sit down, take.
Sir, I have a question to Professor Sharulin. So, sir, you spoke about single cities and then the mega regions, but there are certain regions in between. They are like maybe peri-urban areas or satellite towns, which are not governed by any government mechanism. They may be under some panchayat or something. So, how are these impacted? How are quality of life in these areas impacted by our intervention that we discussed?
Right. Actually, we can have a complete session on this one particular idea, but I'll try to shorten it up as much as possible. See, it works very much in a very simple term, if you can put it. It works in sets of garlands, you know, or if you can think of a necklace. To make a necklace beautiful, what do people do? You don't put all beads of the same size, right? Same way, the power struggle happens between individual cities when you start making administrative boundaries. The moment you make administrative boundaries, that is the same time you give power authorities to individuals who will be controlling those administrative boundaries, right? There's a wonderful book on this, which talks about power and planning, right? So the title of the book itself is Power and Planning. So you can pick it up sometime and you can go through it, which talks exactly about this. So what happens between these middle group people is there, the population decay starts happening. The younger lot, which is closer to the mean average age sex pyramid, which is actually the working population, leaves that place and goes for opportunities to larger beats or larger hubs which are there, right? So that's what we see as incoming migration or outgoing migration from 2 different places, right? So at the whole of it, it impacts a complete system. Okay? It's a bracketed system where the equilibrium is being established. So our task as regional planners or even architects is to find out ways to collaborate with all different systems which are there. And that's why systems which exist, such as geographic information or geographic information tagging, which is recently been done extensively in Uttar Pradesh. If you see just Uttar Pradesh government website, if you go to that website, you will see one particular aspect where each of the town and city, where they do some creative industry activity, that has been marked by a geographic indicator. right? So geographic indicators are the new things with which you can do these activities, where from using these ideas, you can bring in people from abroad. The original idea started with wine making on wineries in Italy, where each grape, because Italy had a very much volcanic type of a situation for their geographic territories, the taste of wine actually kept on changing every few kilometers with every vineyard. So it became extremely difficult for them to market that wine. And the same was happening with case of cheese. So what started happening is one particular group or particular winery group was losing a lot of money because no one was willing to buy their wines. So instead, they made it a unique thing which is only available in that particular place by doing these geographic indicators. So this is an example from Italy, but there are several such examples, particularly in Europe, from where this idea comes from. So we have a very big landmass. We have a very different and plethora of technologies which we develop, which are very indigenous. So there's a huge possibility where these kind of things can be done. Also, additionally, states which have a homogeneous kind of language system, it is much more easier to implement such kind of policies. I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Well, I think over to Irene. If your director is there, it is fine. Otherwise, you can go to the final concluding remarks and yeah, please.
Actually, in Kerala, we have Inninyan Odugatte. There is a Haritha Kerala mission program that has been actively being done as a campaign to rejuvenate the water bodies, the rivers, the canals, and that is being done at a very campaign mode. And there's a lot of work that has been done through the local bodies in that connection. And what we have been talking about is basically how to rejuvenate the water body systems and all that. But we as a part of the risk-informed master plan on working on the World Bank project, we are also interested to bring out certain guidelines in which these can be simply adopted, because the local bodies doesn't have that much of expertise to find out how this can be rejuvenated, how the water percolation can be done. So for that, we are thinking about making some simple guidelines through which already there are some brochures and all that made by the Haritha Kerala mission itself. We will be able to do that and then take up this in all the Pamba Basin urban local bodies.
Yeah, that's good. And again, considering Kerala and the Kerala rivers, the particular nature of that and how the people are living in basin, it's a river-based. You cannot have a common guideline for whole state. Probably you need to look into one particular river and you need to have proper guideline, because people should own it rather than you are pushing like from top down. You should have some kind of consultation at the ground level to know how people can be part of that, and guideline. If you prepare considering people's opinion, it will be far-reaching rather than from having a top-down strategy. So it's good initiative.
Well, yeah, this is exactly what my point is. See, whatever we do, people should own it. That is, if you are not owning it, there will be protest against it. So why can't we live together in peace, in harmony? The same thing, like, this is not a good example to quote. The Joseph Goebbels theory is that when you do the propaganda, you make the propaganda to the people in such a way that the people own it. Then it becomes their own. So why we know that we are not doing work like Joseph Goebbels, but we are doing the good work, and the good work should reach every level at the bottom level. And I request all the political support for it. We are not supposed to make any comment on the political scenario, but we request that the Kerala people should be able to understand, appreciate, and own our rivers, ponds. See, look, just one thing I cannot tolerate is simply people throwing the waste into the water bodies. So you just think about this situation. Now, how can we do that? We never used to do that, but why we are doing it now? So give a little bit of, complete owning up of the things by the people. So that is what probably the citizen auditing can be a part of it. And let everybody be given a responsibility over their region. Let there be groups. See, there are so many people in our groups in unwanted regions working, youth. We all know that there are so many cases coming up. So let these people, young people, be motivated to own their land. And let them actually come up with suggestions, and let them also promulgate the things and institute these things on the land, rather than wasting their time. So let us build a grand new Kerala with that wonderful vision. That is my appeal. And see, look, we at IIT, we are always available. We have got expertise, and our expertise is definitely we are ready to give to you. Right now, this program itself is an example for that. I hope you will appreciate that point, and we will be available whenever you have a need. Please contact us, and we will be able to take up that. I hope Dr. Ajit was there, or he did not join.
Yes, so he was there. I think he had to leave in between.
Okay, fine. I think Rajesh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for your questions and queries. And I didn't get to know about any of the member from the local body. That's also quite sad. Anyway, whatever question that you forward, we'll try to answer it in the best of our capacity. Now, Irene, if you want to wind up, you can wind up. I thank all the professors. With 3 days, of course, we had lots of discussions, but we were never given more than 3 days to organize the whole thing. And that's our ability. That's our capability. And I thank each and every professor who took interest in it. And they are in different places, but they have joined their hands. They followed the timing, everything. Probably Irene knows clearly well. Thank you so much, all the professors. With folded hands, I give you namaste. And to Kila for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, was anyone trying to say something?
Now it is back to you, Irene,
Yeah.
and you have to manage the ending.
Yeah, we'll wind up the session, sir. I think we are on time now. It's 5, so we'll wind up without wasting any time. So thank you all for engaging in this very insightful discussion. And special thanks to Dr. Abraham George for coordinating everything with Kila. And we are very grateful for your time and efforts, sir. Also, thanks to Dr. Shreyas, Dr. Renji, Dr. Gaurav, and Dr. Pashmina for your wonderful presentations. And we also have Dr. Rajesh sir here, Chief Town Planner from LSTD Planning. Thank you, sir, for participating throughout the discussion. And we discussed a lot of concepts, beginning from age-friendly, the need for age-friendly infrastructure in Kerala, resilience building, and novel concepts like biocentrism in planning. All of your valuable contributions have provided us with a better understanding of our various possibilities and the ways in which our policymakers may work to direct urban development from here on. And all the concepts that we discussed today are very relevant to our context and crucial, considering Kerala's current stage of urban planning and development. So we look forward to more fruitful collaborations with IIT Kharagpur. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.